Welcome to the 61st episode of the Nerdom and Other Nonsense Anime Podcast. That's right, we broke Babe Ruth's record for podcasts. Today, we are bringing you the summer 2018's 9th and 10th weeks of shows. As always, we include timestamps in the description of the YouTube video and the podcast feed if you only want to hear about one or two specific shows, because we spoil literally everything. My name is BCom, and I always wanted to be somebody. But now I realize I should have been more specific about who that was. Also with me are Leo and Kat.
Hey. What's up? I like that one.
That hit hard. That hit me real hard, Leo. Thank you. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. I was feeling it from you. You were just sending out vibes or something.
Oh man, it's been a week. It's been a long week.
It has been.
And man. And it's been a long week for Kat's cat as well. I can hear, like, he's
he's very demanding. he's fucking trying to climb up in my lap right now, and I'm like, no, you burned me on this before. You're not allowed. He like will claw my lap to pieces, as you know.
Yeah, he's just trying to pet your head and tell you that, you know, you want to have a happy sugar life together. That's all he's trying to do.
It's like you know, you've been burned once, you've been burned twice, and you're like, no, we're not doing this again. We know how this ends. It's like a dramatic showdown. And they're like, I'm changed. It'll be different. It's like, no, it never is. Okay. Angolmois, episode 9, The Battle of Mountain Castle. So, as we stopped last episode, the Mongols are about to attack. And so there's like 1,000 Mongols, and there's only 160 people defending this castle. That's a ridiculous matchup right there. It's pretty intimidating. So
castles were OP back then, though, so it kind of works, almost.
I don't know. Maybe. So Kuchi makes a model of, and I can't say the name of this castle. It's like Kan Tanoki or something like that.
Yeah, it's pretty close, I think.
It's a very fancy castle. He makes this model of it, and it's very exact, and everyone's impressed with it. And he's awesome with models, as we know already from the previous episodes. This makes sense.
He would definitely win, like, a sandcastle competition if he entered into one.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
Have you noticed that they like to make a big deal about how exact his models are? Like, are we impressed at all at this ability? Because I'm really not. I'm like, I don't know why we care so much.
Yeah, they're like, we've lived here for millennia, and he knows the exact layout out of our castle after, like, one day. And it's just it's almost like they're around it.
No, they didn't literally say this, but they're so amazed. They're like, he knows exactly where all of the toilets are and everything. You know, it's like, I don't care. Like, I don't know. But you know, maybe in that time it is impressive, and we just don't understand because we're modern. Who knows? But yeah, Shark Tooth guy doesn't really like this because he's like, Kuchi's acting like one of them now. It's too good for us, prisoners. So that might be trouble later. Who knows? But yeah, the first wave of Mongols gets close. And at first, you think they have this ambush set up so that the defenders are in the trees and they're hiding with leaves all over them. And it looks like the Mongols caught this ambush because they say this thing where they're like, trees aren't supposed to have this many leaves this time of year. And they're like, gotcha. And they like start taking out some of the people in the trees. And at first, as the watcher, you're kind of like, well, fuck, they found out the ambush. That didn't work. But then they have more men on the ground hiding, and they jump up and they're like, oh, bitches, we got you with the second ambush. And they like kill off a bunch of those Mongols.
Yes.
And you're like, oh, but I don't know how they didn't see them on the ground. I'm assuming they dug pits. That's the only thing I could think of.
And just camouflage them with leaves, yeah.
Bushes and trees and bushes on the ground. And they got distracted by the
even
bushes
with
and
that,
trees.
you would see a lump. Like, even if you're covered in leaves and you're on the ground, you would see that there's lumps. So I feel like they dug, like, maybe shallow pits, you know?
Yeah, something like that, and disguise themselves, yeah.
Yeah, so that works pretty well. And then Kuchi's like, all right, we struck them off guard. to manipulate how they're feeling, and then we're going to lead them to the south gate where all of our units are, like all of our strength. So they do that. And it actually works really well. And then the main force is able to sort of pick off the first wave with no problems. So this ambush that they accomplished with 20 guys, worked out really well.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, by the west wall, Shiraishi is posted with a few other soldiers, and he tries to get the other soldiers to leave because he doesn't really want to kill them, but they won't, and they're like, "We want to help you," da 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 da, and they're being all loyalty, and he's like, "Well, fuck, I have to kill them," and so he's upset.
He's like, "How much more will you make me suffer?"
I know, and I'm like, dude, you're the one doing this to yourself. I don't know why you have to, but I don't know. It's interesting because it's almost like he's regretting his decision, but I don't really think he is regretting it. It's almost just like he's suffering. I can't quite put my finger on how I feel about him, because at one point I found myself thinking oh, he's a good guy who's done a bad thing. But then I was like, no, he's not really a good guy. It's more like he's a moral guy. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, he has his own personal code. And we learn in these 2 episodes definitely more about his past and why he's doing the things he's doing. It doesn't really forgive that he's betraying people and getting them killed, but he himself has been betrayed. So yeah, I mean, it's more understandable. At least he's an understandable character.
In the second part, he says exactly why he's doing what he says, and then you're kind of okay, I get why you did what you did, but you're still a traitor.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so Kuchi and the general from the natives realize that the Mongols are planning to attack somewhere else because the force kind of lets up and there's not as much going on in the main area of the fight. And they're like, all right, they're planning something. And so they go out kind of looking to see what's going on, and they see what looks like the burned up citadel, and they think, oh, the Mongols have burned the citadel. But then when they get closer, they realize that actually the Mongols are the ones burning inside the citadel, and the natives who were holding that citadel, the Mongols were about to overtake it, and so they just burned it all to the ground because they're like, well, we've held this for 5 generations. Fuck if we'll let them have it now. Let's all just die.
Well, they also, it's called controlled burning, and they've done it before, so they know what they're doing.
Yes, I did see that part, but they also died, the people in there at the time.
The fire also seemed to have a mind of its own, because it spread really quickly in the direction of the Mongol guys, and they were immediately overtaken by it before they had a chance to run. Mm-hmm. Some of them make it out of there, they're burnt to a crisp, but it seemed the fire had some spirit within it that was heavily implied.
Spirit of the mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Interesting. But yeah, so then the Mongol general starts to sort of rally the troops to sort of crush the remaining forces in the castle from all sides at once. And they definitely have the advantage. The Mongols would win eventually. But then Kuchi leads this surprise raid to take out the general. And his idea is if we kill this general, then the rest of them are pretty much going to just leave because they don't really want to be here. But they don't manage to actually kill the commander, but they do manage to kind of scare the shit out of him because they get really close to killing him. Doesn't he shoot an arrow and almost hits him right in the face?
And one of his one of his guys next to him throws up a board to block it, but it even goes through the board to almost to his nose.
Yep.
So
it was that close. Yeah. And the commander's kind of well, I'm kind of scared now. We're just going to leave because this isn't worth it. So they leave.
Well, I'm pretty sure he's probably just got a bunch of shit in his pants at that moment. And he's just gotta go take care of this.
Yep. You're not wrong. So then at the end of the episode, they're all kind of speculating, why do you think all these Mongols attacked this little west area of the fence, and what was Shiraishi doing? And they kind of figure out oh, Shiraishi was a traitor. And at first Kuchi doesn't want to believe it, but then Kuchi goes and finds Shiraishi waiting there, and he wants to kill him so the Mongols will let him go with them. And like at the end of this episode, my thought was like, do you think that's really true that the Mongols were like, you have to kill this guy? Or like, because I kind of thought when I first saw this, like, oh, it's probably more of an honor thing for Shiraishi more than anything.
I think they would kill him, yeah. I think if he went back and like everything had gone wrong for the Mongols, he has like no leverage.
That's
so when
true.
he's like, if I bring your head to them, like or whatever, like they'll let me come back. Obviously,
yeah. It's just
I think he truly thought that.
I have a weird way of like I kind of like his character because it's interesting and unique, but like I also don't. I have weird thoughts about Shiraishi, but yeah.
So one thing I really liked about this episode is just like the way that they portray the Mongols and like their army generals and like leaders, because it seemed really realistic to me because like in a lot of anime about two armies coming clashing together, like the bad guy army is always portrayed as like panicking and making stupid decisions because of how badass the good guys are. But like here the Mongols make like really well reasoned out decisions about their strategy. Like they trust in their soldiers because they've been through a whole campaign of castle sieges in Korea before even trying to attack Japan. So they know what they're doing, they're experienced, they don't panic when things start to go bad. But like they eventually just come to the conclusion that like it may not be worth losing the amount of men it would take to take this castle because their main target is Kyushu anyway, where they're leaving soon. And like it would be nice to take the treasure from this castle, but like now that it's on fire, there is no treasure probably, and so like they have no incentive to stay anymore. And it was just like was a really well reasoned out like just like set of like things that happened like led to them leaving or supposedly leaving before the end of this episode.
And each faction in the Mongol army have their like their own fighting styles and strengths and weaknesses, and like the show's been really kind of playing on that a little bit. It was really the Explodey guys an episode or two ago, I think, and those were interesting. But
yeah, I like that too. It's cool. All right, so episode 10, Bad Omen. So this picks back up with the showdown between Kuchi and Shiraishi. And so we find out about Shiraishi's backstory, like we were talking about. He was tricked by this neighboring lord in the past, and he was tricked out of all of his lands and separated from his whole clan and his family, making people think that he was a villain is what like this neighboring lord did. And since then he like realized he's basically got to do whatever he can to recover his lands and his clan, and he's basically willing to stop at nothing to accomplish that goal, and like even if it involves tricking other people just like he was tricked. So yeah, the fight between Kuchi and Shiraishi is kind of like depressingly but like realistically short. Like I wish it had gone on a little bit longer, but it's kind of realistic how long it lasts. It plays out like a mini chess match. Like Shiraishi has a Naginata, so he has a big reach advantage on Kuchi. But it's like, so Kuchi tries to like rush him and get inside, and Shiraishi goes to drop his Naginata and like take a short sword out to swipe at Kuchi's neck, but like Kuchi had already thought about that and pulled out like his like second sword and sliced through Shiraishi's belly like one step ahead of him, using his Gike style or whatever. So like basically that's the whole fight. Like Shiraishi is basically done, but like also like one of those women from the Toibarai, sorry. She like comes back and she like finishes Shiraishi off with like a crossbow bolt as revenge for all the people he betrayed. And there was this weird thing where like Kuchi like yells at her like, "You're not worthy of interfering with this fight."
No, I know.
Which is interesting. Because it's like Kuchi's like sort of defending his honor, right? Like Shiraishi's honor. Which like, but you understand like the woman's like desire to like fight this guy too, because like she lost people to
like, bitch,
but like so it's.
I was pissed off, but then I was like, I was pissed off at that, but then I was like, well, it's the times too. I'm sure it's realistic as to what would happen. It's still annoying. Anyway.
Yeah, it was interesting. And Kuchi makes this speech about how they both fought like honorably in their own ways, and then he chops off Shiraishi's head at Shiraishi's request. Like, so it was sort of like a just like don't intrude on our samurai honor thing, which is the sign of the times. Like, yeah, that's basically what it was.
Yeah.
So yeah, then Teruhi comes back and takes the head of Shiraishi. And she declares that, like, Shiraishi forgot his debt to the people of Tsushima, and his head will be either hung from a castle gate or thrown from the side of the road for his unforgivable crimes. And at this point, Kuchi's like, all right, fine. Like, I don't know if it's because, like, Teruhi is, like, worthy of doing this because she's, like, the leader, or because, like, maybe he just wanted to give Shiraishi an honorable death, and now that he's dead, he doesn't care anymore. It could be either thing, really.
Well, and give Teruhi her just dues. I mean, he's the reason she lost a bunch of her people. So
Right.
yeah.
So that night, as Teruhi stalks Kuchi in his sleep once again, she's just constantly stalking him in his sleep. She spots Ginshichi's son, Sasamaru, trying to sneak up and kill Kuchi with his father's sword for revenge. And she scolds him and tells him, you need to grow stronger and try when you're older, like, get out of here. But then, like, she goes over to Kuchi and, like, tries to kiss him once again, which Sasamaru sees. And then she, like, goes crazy and threatens to kill this kid if he tells anyone. Like,
and she gives him the eyes, dude.
Yeah, yandere eyes, like Jesus. And, like, Kuchi wakes up and he's like, what the hell is going on?
This is the second time I've woken up with you hovering over me.
He's like, stop trying to rape
Every
me,
time
dude.
he wakes up, like, she's on top of him. Like, he's gonna start to wonder.
Exactly.
So they're interrupted by this bunch of deer and boar that have, like, gathered at the south gate. And they realize that only a humongous army could have driven all these animals to shelter near their castle, because they would basically just have nowhere else to go. But morale is, like, still kind of high among, like, the Toibarai and the exiles, because the Toibarai elder, because they won the battle. But then the Toibarai elder is, like, doing, like, a ritual to, like, you know, check the omens, and he gets a really bad omen, like, so bad that, like, his totem, like, catches on fire, and, like, I think he literally dies.
Yeah, he, like, has a heart attack or something, but he's
like,
dead.
That's a real bad omen. That's about as bad as it could possibly get. So, also, two of the exiles, like the little dude and the big-ass shark teeth guy, whose names I forget, but, like, you know who they are.
Shark Tooth is Oni Takamaru.
Oni Takimaru, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know the little guy's name. He hasn't been that important to the show, really.
The one that's running around the walls?
No, not the kid, but, like, the tiny, like, older man who gets on the raft as well.
Oh, just that old dude, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Those two...
Ming Fu Zhang.
Oh, okay. Yes, yeah, I never even heard that. All right, so those dudes decide, like, we're leaving this island on a raft. Like, this is a bad situation. And, like, there's a couple other people there, like the little kid who we were talking about who runs around the walls. He was there, and he decides not to go. Like, there's a cute scene where, like, the Toibarai girl, like, comes and, like, fights with him about, like, how you were just about to leave. And, like, she's clearly just, like, in love with this kid. And she's, like, just fighting with him, and it's very cute, and the other people all think it's cute. But yeah, so the elder died from that omen, and then the Toibarai leader, Nagamine, tries to spin this into a good omen, which I thought was hilarious. He's like, yeah, this is a great omen, guys. Like, it means that our conflict is behind us. Totally. But it doesn't last long, as the Mongols kill, like, a few of the Toibarai scouts. And, like, but then they decide, like, well, we've probably been found out anyway, so let's just engage in, like, a little psychological warfare. So the Mongol army, which is humongous now because it's gotten reinforcements, like, lights, like hundreds or maybe thousands of fires in the forest, like bonfires, just to show how huge their army is.
The point is, it takes up the whole mountainside in front of them, and they're just like, holy shit, we're dead.
Yeah. God. That would be terrifying. And then, so Teruhi, Nagamine, and Kuchi sort of argue over, like, what they should do. Teruhi thinks they should abandon the castle because, like, they clearly are overmatched. But then Nagamine argues that, like, well, in a month, winter's going to come, we'll have no supplies, and we'll either die from cold, starvation, or just getting caught by the Mongols anyway. And so Kuchi suggests basically, like, a middle ground, like, let's abandon the castle temporarily, and we might have enough time to hook up with the reinforcements from Hakata. And so, yeah, at the very end, Nagamine decides to follow Kuchi's plan, but just then they spot ships on the horizon. And, like, after the end credits, you find out they're Mongolian warships. And you also find out that the reinforcements from Hakata may not be coming because, like, the son, the lord who Kuchi had made a promise with, his father does not want to send reinforcements because he just wants to defend Hakata alone. So yeah, they're kind of screwed with Mongolians on both sides closing in on them and no escape.
Did it say it was Mongolian warships?
They did at the very end of the credits, after credits.
Oh, okay. That's why I didn't see it, because I thought it was like the...
a cliffhanger, right? Yeah, I thought they were leaving it as a cliffhanger too until the very, very end after the credits, yeah.
Yeah, I totally thought the ships were like the Japanese people coming back or whoever.
Yeah, there's a whole after credits scene that like clears that up because I thought that too. Well, I thought they were leaving it as an intentional cliffhanger. I thought it was like I thought we were supposed to think they were Japanese ships, but we would find out next week they were Mongolian. But the after credits scene just like goes into it and tells us everything.
I hate after credits scene because I skip the EDs a lot and I miss them.
Yeah, and it's annoying because some shows are inconsistent with them. Like sometimes they'll have one and sometimes they won't. I always just try to look at the time in the left in the video.
Sometimes I catch it. I'm like, oh wait, there's too much time at the end. Something's gonna happen.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to tell sometimes though, because sometimes it's only like 5 seconds of a scene, and it's still important. So yeah.
I mean,
also. That's the thing that makes this even worse right now, Leo, is like something we mentioned a couple weeks ago with like the freaking Amazon Instant Video, like trying to skip the ED every time. It gives you like half a second to press hide. It's so bad.
You gotta be ready and just like waiting for it with your hand on the mouse. It always sneaks up on me anyways. But I want to see Oni Takamaru at some point get like his pirate gang back together and then just like come in and like wreck a bunch of Mongolian ships. I think that would be cool.
Yeah, I thought like when he was going off, I was like, he's gonna come back in like a moment of glory or something. Like, and he probably still will, but though it looks like he's kind of in trouble now because like there's like 1,000 Mongolians sailing straight for his raft.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens. He's definitely not leaving now. There's no escape, so we'll see.
No.
All right, let's move on to the next show.
All the way to Thursdays. We have Sirius the Jaeger. So, Yuli fights the vampire twins for like 30 seconds, and then that's like it. I was like, okay.
Yeah, that was kind of weird.
Yeah.
I agree.
And an interesting thing happens. He actually could have killed one of them, but he hesitated once he saw the fear in their eyes, and then let him, like, he hesitated, so it was enough for them to get away. So, like I said, they flee after 30 seconds. Then they end up meeting the old man, and he points his gun at Yuli, asking why the son of Alexia has stopped by after all this time. Apparently, the old man had met Alexia a long time ago.
Oh, it's Alexei.
Alexei. The old man had met Alexei a long time ago, and he showed him like their village and stuff. And we don't get that backstory until the next episode. So, okay. But then Alexei disappeared one day with the Ark, and the old man was only able to track him to the village they were at. And he won't tell Yuli where it is because he can't get it because of what his father did with it. And he's like, just sends them on their way. Like, leave me alone. Then we get this quick scene with Yevgraf telling Mikhail that he and the vampire twins will all be going, that means all 4 of them, going to visit Yuli next time. Mikhail gets kind of angered by this, but later he tries to sneak off to warn his brother, but like they were onto him when they meet him at like the door as he tries to leave, and like, we're not letting you go. But then like this strange thing happens to one of like the random vampire guys. He starts to like lose control, and he like turns into like his true vampire form, and he starts attacking everybody. And then also he's supposed to be under the control of the one of the twins, but for some reason that control doesn't work anymore. So they're like, okay, so they have to end up killing him anyways. And then they end up.
It's like this disease that's spreading among the vampires.
Yeah, and I mean that. I guess that's Yevgraf's end goal is to use the Ark to cure this disease that is starting to wipe out all the vampires.
I really don't like the voice actors for the twins. They just like repeat each other. Like when they're killing the vampire who's like diseased or whatever, their voice acting is weird. Sorry.
It's like they don't fit in with the rest of the cast of this anime because they're just like moe anime girls in a cast of like normal anime like voice acting.
I agree with that, guys, but I think their back and forth is kind of funny to me.
I still think they're kind of amusing, but like they haven't been really well used.
They're
yet.
funny
like,
as just like a blatant trope, but like nothing else.
Yeah. And they end up like rounding up the rest of the sick vampires and basically quarantining them. And then Yuli and like Bishop go back into town. They run into Major Iba and Ryoko, and they just have dinner together. And Iba wants to go with them the next time they go to see the old man. Yuli and Ryoko have like a talk afterwards that really just ups like the family drama more and doesn't really do anything else. I mean, it's not even really a like. It kind of is those two kind of like. Yuli's not taking a hint that she's kind of got the hots for him. And then there's just family drama stuff. And I was like, I don't get what the point of this scene was. Maybe we're supposed to feel more for these two, but whatever. But anyways, they go and they visit the old man again. And Iba tries to get him to tell them the location. And then he can report back to the superiors why the Ark is unattainable. And then they can both be released from their mission. The old man still won't give it up until Yuli informs him Dogville is like no more. And the old dude's just like, are you serious? It's gone. And just flat out convinces him of his need to find the Ark. It finally wins the old guy over and he tells Yuli, I feel like I got to talk to Alexa for one more time.
I got confused though, because how did he not know that Dogville was gone? Because it's been years and years since Dogville was destroyed.
Well, he's been away that entire time.
Well, but like you'd think he would check in every once in a while.
Well, I think he's been staying to guard the Ark, kind of, in his own way. Yeah. And Yuli being, I guess, Mikhail's a survivor, also being the only two survivors, word's not really going to get to him.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, he ends up giving him the location, and the next day, Yuli and Bishop leave behind Iba and Roko, but they follow them anyways, of course. And then the rest of Yuli's crew are barely in this episode, but what you find out is they ended up going to Dogville and they're looking for something. And then apparently there was another after credits scene that I did not see.
Oh yeah, there was. I think it just showed Klarwein and his zombie flamethrower army.
Yeah, I saw your note and I was like, I do not remember this at all.
yeah, that was after the credits. I was like, oh shit, that's not good.
Yeah.
Yeah. After this episode, I was mostly wondering, okay, what are V shipping looking for in Dogville? I don't think what would be left there that the vampires didn't take, and so of course they get into that next episode. And I just made a note that Yuli doesn't like those lolly vampire eyes. I was just like, I don't like their eyes. I was just laughing.
Well, that's his excuse to Bishop. And if you actually paid attention to the scene, he hesitated when that one thought she was going to die.
Right.
So yeah, that's what happened. It's strange. They may go more into it later, but
they could. Yeah.
Who knows? So
episode 10 is called Memories of the Abyss. This is not a recap of Made in the Abyss. It's another episode of this show. Okay. So
there is a season 2 of Made of Abyss.
I know, yeah. Oh, that'll be fun. So V Shipping start the episode off by discovering this shrine that's behind a hidden door and many floors beneath these royal tombs of Sirius in Dogville. And so this was I guess this was not actually the original birthplace of the Ark. I was kind of confused at this point in time because it's there's a shrine in Sakhalin where they are now in that island off of Russia. And then there's this shrine in Dogville that are basically the same. They could both be used to seal away the Ark, but I guess the one in Sakhalin is the actual place the Ark was birthed.
Yes.
Originally.
Okay.
Or created or whatever you want to say.
Yeah. Willard, he's able to read an inscription that indicates there's a small vessel in the shape of a ball that has the power to seal away the Ark to the land, I think, where it was originally created. They say we have no knowledge of the creation of the Ark. It's beyond us. It came from another land or something, but it can be sealed away by this ball. And so he takes the ball and he's like, I think Yuli might need this one day. So that's what they were looking for. There's a brief showdown between Bishop, Yuli, and Klarwein. Klarwein's got his a tank and this gang of vampires who he has made into robot zombies. With they have knights helmets, metal helmets with a knight shield and stuff, and flamethrowers, and they look pretty badass. And it's like a continuation of his experiments that he was doing on humans, like with the Frankenstein. He's just applying it to vampires now. And it's like his solution to this whole vampire disease that's happening. And it's why he feels he's useful to Yevgrav, but he never gets noticed by Senpai. So he's very upset. So yeah.
Too true.
Yeah, right. Yuli is able to make these like vampire flamethrower guys like basically use their own weapons on themselves. Like he uses his like chain weapon to like latch on to one of the guy's flamethrowers and like turn it against themselves. And then Klarwein is trying to shoot them with like tank shells, but all of those like shots keep hitting the ground and they're on this like icy cliff, and of course it cracks the ice and it causes like all of them just like fall off the mountain.
I will say all flamethrower squads or armies always end up with themselves on fire. It happens in everything.
In every media, like Saving Private Ryan to everything, like literally anything. It always
that
happens.
guy has a flamethrower? He's gonna die by fire.
Yep. And it's like, if it ever happened, though, that there was like a flamethrower guy and he just got like shot randomly and nothing happened, you would just be really surprised, though.
That would be interesting.
Yeah, Yevgrav seems pretty pissed that after ruling for nearly an eternity as an immortal vampire, he and all of his vampire kind are being brought down by this like mysterious disease he has no idea about. And so, yeah, he's kind of upset that he's being forced to use the power of the Sirius to like potentially save the vampires, but he's going to do what it takes because he wants to save them. So yeah, Yuli and Bishop, they find the chamber where the Ark is sealed, and Yuli like just walks straight towards the blood red liquid, like no hesitation whatsoever. And he does experience the same pain that his brother Mikhail felt. But when his Sirius power activates, like he's more determined basically, and he's sucked down into the water. There's like a huge like wave. And as he's sucked beneath, he starts to see these memories of like his family and his father floating in the bubbles in the water. And specifically, he sees memories of Akasaka, who is like the old man from last episode, convincing Yuli's father, Alexei, to move the Ark from Dogville because every country in the world was secretly looking for it, and they would eventually find it. And he also views this conversation between Alexei and the Sirius elder at the time, Gustav. Gustav wanted to kill Akasaka for finding out about the Ark. Yeah. And as an outsider, like that was like the status quo, basically. Like if anybody found out about the Ark who was an outsider, they would be killed because they had knowledge of it and it was too dangerous to let that knowledge exist. But Alexei is basically different. Like his wife Sachi was like one of the first humans accepted into this tight-knit Sirius group, and he wants to change their traditions. So he basically decides that he wants to seal away the Ark once and for all. But Gustav tells him that only one of royal blood can seal it, so that means Alexei alone can seal it. And despite the danger, Alexei decides to sacrifice himself in the hope that like his kids will have a better life because of this. So, yeah, once Yuli snaps out of his flashback, he finds that he's like basically standing right in front of his father. His father tells him like he sacrificed his body and soul to seal away the Ark, and his soul is only tied to this place because it's tied to the Ark that he sealed away. He still believes he did the right thing, but like Yuli basically tells him like, my mom said like I need to live on, blah blah blah. And he believes that like meant that she wanted him to accomplish what like Alexei set out to do and live. And so Yuli wants to believe that there's like a way to save his father and also maintain the peace of the world without having this like tragedy continue where his father's just like shackled to this shrine for all eternity. And Alexei's like kind of moved by all this, and he decides like, fine, I will give Yuli the Ark. But I think as he does, he basically dies because his soul was tied to the Ark. And so in order to release the seal on the Ark, he has to release his soul as well. And so he gives Yuli the choice of what to do at this point, basically. And so Yevgrav and the little vampire girls also see this because there's like this huge beam of light shoots up into the sky, and they're all like celebrating that like the Ark is finally here. And yeah, that's where it ends. That's the cliffhanger before the final 2 episodes.
Yep.
I'm like, Kat, yeah, that's what happens.
Did you have any other different like take on like his dad's like decision making, like for letting him have the arc? Also, do you think his dad is dead now, or there's like I think that's what it implied.
Dead, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, his soul moved on now. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't like
That's
the
what it
whole like I'm gonna sacrifice myself type bullshit that a lot of anime and a lot of shows do. Really, I don't know. It never works out very well. I don't know. It's kind of overdone, but
Definitely.
yeah, he did it. So. And as we know, this anime is like a very standard anime. It's a well done anime, but there's nothing like new that happens in this anime.
It's a pretty standard story.
Yeah, and nothing really
executed
just, like,
well.
stands way out or anything like that. It's just very.
Yeah, and so I'm not mad at it for doing the same thing. It's just
Ooh, I have another
overdone.
question. Leo, I think I know what your answer will be to this, but do you guys think Klarwine is dead?
Klarwine? Oh, there's no body. That's always
no
been
body,
my
right?
mantra.
Yeah, there's no body.
Like he fell off a mountain. He also got hit in the face by like a tank shell, but like I still don't think he's dead.
Well,
He's fine.
as we know, that doesn't matter. Like if there's no body,
Yeah.
they'll still somehow come back. They'll crawl back as a
Interesting to
zombie.
see how he plays into this. Like,
Yeah.
I think he might turn against Yevgrav in a moment of, like just retribution, but we'll see.
And even when there is a body, that only means he's 75% might actually be dead. That's either a
Good
body
point.
double or he's coming back or who knows.
Yeah.
Okay. You ready, guys? Ready for the next show?
Maybe.
Banana
So
fish.
I have a very short story about this. So I was getting in my car, and every morning I listen to Bob and Tom. If nobody knows who this is, it's just a talk show on the radio every morning. It's pretty popular in Indiana. It's very funny. They do their own skits all the times. And they were doing this one called Boo Food. And it was a really funny thing about basically it's a butt thing, and they kept trying to say rear and all kinds of stuff. And this one lady's like, "Yeah, I didn't like Boo Food, but Walt kept telling me to try Boo Food, so I tried it, and I like being Boo Food all the time." And it's pretty funny. So I was like, you know what? I need to make as many butt jokes as I can when I watch Banana Fish. And then I watched the episode, and I
They
went,
made it easy for you.
I thought, maybe not. This is getting really serious.
That's fair.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, no butt jokes. This is just way too getting crazy right now.
Yeah, it's way
So
too
anyways,
depressing.
Episode 9, Save Me the Waltz. Eiji gets delivered to Dino and is told that Shorter was the one that betrayed them. He doesn't want to believe it, but Shorter confirms what he has done. I don't know why he didn't just say they threatened my sister. Eiji's a pretty reasonable person. I'm pretty sure he would have been like, all right, I kind of get it, man.
Yeah.
I think Shorter just kind of feels really shitty right now, and so he doesn't feel like saying that.
Yeah, he doesn't even want to make an excuse, because even if it's a decent excuse, because
Yeah, he just feels that bad. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
And Yutlong, is that the name we're going with? That's his name, right? Yutlong Lee.
I kept calling him Lee because like that's easier.
Yeah, but all the other
there's like
guys are
multiple
Lee.
leads.
I know.
But he was also given as a gift to Dino, and he's like dressed up like very, very girly. He's like a guy. It's a Chinese dress, right?
He's got like eyeshadow on.
It looks like it, yeah.
Yeah, that and the Chinese dress and so on. But then Shorter gets turned into a guinea pig, and they inject him with the latest refinement of banana fish. He starts hallucinating, and they tell him to like rip Eiji's guts out. And Dino has this big plan to have Ash have to actually watch this happen. So that's pretty fucking dark and twisted. That's when I was like, I can't make butt jokes. This will clash with the seriousness of this episode. This will not work. So in the next scene, Dino is about to butt fuck a tied up Eiji.
No butt jokes, Leo. What happened?
Dino's about to have a
true, though.
threesome.
No, this is very true.
thing
Eiji's
was
tied
for
up
real.
naked. Him and Yutlong's naked, and Dino's getting ready to just go to Pound Town on both of them. But then he stops because he has to like go make dinner arrangements before Ash arrives. And Yetlong is clever enough to see what the code was that Dino punched in the door to get out, so he knows that.
That was also an interesting scene because it was basically like Yetlong saying like, AG, this is what Ash's life has been like. Like, you're just living what he's lived for like his entire life, being one of Dino's prostitutes. And like, it's, and like, because AG's like, how can you do this? Like, how can you be okay with any of this? And Yetlong's like, well, I mean, you've had like a nice little life, like sheltered life, but me and Ash have been doing this for years. It's like been our entire existence. So
we had
suck
to
it up.
fuck our way to where we are.
I mean, pretty much, yeah. Like that's how they survived.
Yeah. So
started at the bottom. Now we're here.
Oh Jesus! Fucking. Oh.
But
we're gonna kill Pecan before this is over with.
God damn.
So I really like this dinner scene because Dino, it's all nothing but Dino asserting his dominance through the whole thing. So he basically gloats how he raised Ash and gave him an education. He also brags about how he was his most valuable merchandise at his club because of his almost blonde platinum hair and light green eyes. He's very rare. He also pierced Ash's ear with like a $400,000 stone, and that kind of signifies as like tagging him and saying he owns him, which I thought was neat. But
you thought it was neat,
very, very short.
Leo. You thought it was neat. What?
I thought it was interesting writing.
Okay,
how about that?
Sorry,
that's what I mean by it.
Okay, that's better
because I could see some people looking over that and not thinking about it.
Yeah,
it's like when Kat puts her collars on her animals; she owns them.
No. Yeah,
but the dinner's like
animals.
cut very short. Like they don't even eat, and they end up chaining Ash up in like Dino's execution room, and it's just like basically it looks like a torture chamber, but then it's got like this opera style booth up in the wall. And Ash is acting like very smug up to this point until they bring in Shorter and Eiji. Ash is just like totally appalled and horrified that they've used banana fish on Shorter. And like Dino also has like a senator and a general up in his little opera box watching all this. So like he's got a game plan here.
A Republican senator, I will have you know.
Yeah, it was specific.
They do specify. It's kind of funny.
Yeah. They sick Shorter onto Eiji with a knife, and it's more like it's like he's really drunk and he's like trying to attack Eiji. That's like what it looked like to me. He's not, it's the drug, but like that's how I would describe it.
Right.
And then like Eiji gets like a bunch of shallow cuts, and like Ash manages at one point to pull Shorter from a stupor just for a moment before he goes after Eiji again. And then like at the last second before Shorter, he's got like Eiji pinned down and he's like lifting up the knife. Arthur releases Ash and gives him a gun with one bullet in it. And Ash, you know, he doesn't have any time to think. He just quickly lunges for the gun and just shoots a bullet clean through Shorter's back and out his heart. And that's not what an exit of a bullet wound looks like.
No, was Dino still in the room at that point? Like,
yeah,
or was he up with the senator?
Yeah, he was up in the booth, but I don't know if Ash could have shot him from there.
Yeah, I don't think he could have. I think it would have been ridiculous to be able to shoot him. I wanted that to happen, but then I was also like, well, AG's like on the verge of death here also, so there's like priorities.
Yeah, and like the doctor's there, and he's so happy that Shorter didn't suffer any brain damage, so now he can operate on him and look at his brain and see what happened to it. Like, just fucking
gross.
Twisted individual. Yeah. If you didn't hate that guy up to this point, you do now. And then there's just this really rando scene where Shorter's replacement talks to the rest of Ash's crew, and he wants to help them get Ash and Shorter back. And that just happened. It was like in the middle of everything that happened, and I was just like, okay. And that was that episode.
So I'm just like viewing this from like Eiji's perspective, and like now he's like in beds, like getting like chained to a bed, naked, like threatened with rape by people. He's like seeing people killed in front of his own eyes like every day, and it's just like, why is he so devoted to Ash? Like, I don't really get it. Like, I sort of get it. Like,
it's Stockholm syndrome. It's like when you bond with someone in a time in your life that is very stressful, like you. Fuck that's a strong bond. That's what it is. It's like that weird.
Yeah, I guess that's what it is.
You could
panic bond.
I guess you could explain it that way.
I'm just like AG. Like, there are other guys out there, you know. Like, he can move
But
on.
not with platinum blonde hair and light green eyes.
I mean, he is a stud. Let's be real. It's pretty hot.
Man. I mean, obviously, like, the whole premise is that, like, they are indebted to each other. They have a bond that they're developing and it's growing. But it's just like there's so much ridiculous shit that they're going through. Like every episode, it's just crazy. So I don't know.
Oh, and like Max and the other doctor's brother are there this whole time, and they don't even need to be there.
Yeah, it was weird. I didn't understand fully like why they were even there as well.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Shunichi. Yeah, and Max.
Oh yeah, Shunichi's
like,
there. Yeah,
yeah.
I wasn't clear on why they were even there. I guess they came with.
Yeah, they got
Ash?
captured with Ash.
Oh, they got captured with Ash. Okay.
They didn't have any dialogue. They didn't have any action. I mean, the writers couldn't have given them something. But that was it.
I think one of the only funny moments was when they're drinking wine at the dinner table, and Ash, like Dino's like, Ash, I got this special wine out for you, and he's like, oh, it's a Romagna Conti. I think it's a 69. And then they show Max like sniffing the wine and just being like, oh, it smells like wine.
He's like sniffing it, drinking it, sniffing it, and drinking it. He's like, how did he do that? Yeah, he's blown away.
Yeah,
but
he's
that's
just
it.
like, I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing that either of those characters did this whole episode. So
yeah, that's the only vague thing I remember. Really,
and that was in the background.
Yeah, it was in the. So yeah, it was weird that they were even there, but yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Cam, why don't you tell us about episode 10?
Oh, okay. All right. So at the beginning of episode 10, the thugs take AG out of the room. They say they will use like banana fish on him later. And they're just like, haha, we're going to torture everyone you know and blah, blah, blah. And Ash is pretty much like, please just kill me instead. Because like, this is fucked up. And like, I don't want to see this anymore. And I don't know, that blonde guy, I can never remember. Isn't it like Arthur? Yeah. Arthur like has a creepy sadist thing because he's just like very excited to torture Ash like throughout this.
Well, specifically for Ash too.
He's just like, yes,
he
give me your pain
on the back of my fingers.
Yeah, no, I don't understand why it matters so fucking much to him. It's like, listen, dude, he hurt your fingers at one point in your life. Get the fuck over it. You've already done shit to him. Let it go. Like, I don't know. It's weird. But yeah, in the meantime, the Chinese, like, I'm calling them the Chinese rebel group. Like the people in the thug in the gang of in the Chinese gang who like rebelled because Shorter was like taken. So I call them the rebel group. And they're checking out how to get into the mansion the next morning. So they're kind of staking it out and looking at the entrances and everything. And apparently the perfect ceremony for banana fish will be later tonight, according to Dino, the next morning. And he's like super psyched about this. He's like, oh yeah, something's going down. And then he mentions how, so like Arthur is like, but really we should get rid of Ash tonight. I don't know why you're doing this other thing. And then Dino makes this remark about how his shoulder hurts every now and then, just like Arthur's fingers do. And don't worry, he'll take care of Ash. And so I'm kind of wondering, like, did Ash do something to Dino's shoulder? Like, I'm not sure.
I think he stabbed him at some point. That's what I felt like they were insinuating.
Yeah. Or something. Something happened there. Or maybe he shot him. I don't know. But yeah.
Well, I mean, Dino spent all this time, stabbing him, so.
Yeah.
That's true. With the different weapon.
How do you feel it being penetrated, Dino?
Yeah, no. Then Yutlung tells Big is like, I'm not gonna fucking laugh. Fuck you both.
I'm not engaging in this bile humor. Continue, Kat.
Yutlung tells his brother that he has information about Dino and the meeting he's going to later tonight, but not to tell their other brother. So Yutlung is still playing the game, like his brothers against each other, kind of. Then Yutlung goes and puts ointment on Ash when Dino leaves, and he's like, I'm sorry about Shorter. Sorry he died. And Ash is like, fuck you. And Yutlung kind of goes into this rant about how Ash is really weak towards the people he cares about. And he's like, hey, Dino's going to be gone. I'm going to let you go. You can do whatever. Then later in the episode, we find out that the ceremony that they were talking about was that they used banana fish to kill one of the presidential candidates for the next election in the U.S., and I guess they used it on one of his staffers, because like one of his staffers comes out and she's like covered in blood and she's got this knife and she's like, help me, you know.
I thought it could have been like his
might have been
wife
his
also.
wife. I don't even know if it was a staffer or his wife. They didn't really. I don't know if they said.
Oh, okay. I don't think it said. I assumed it was a staffer.
Stabs him and then stabs herself. Eesh.
Yeah, that was interesting. And then later on in the evening, Dino is kind of like rubbing elbows with a bunch of people from the government and the military when he finds out that Ash has escaped. And as he's finding this out, there are some Chinese rebels that are like infiltrating the meeting where Dino is. And they ask one of Dino's men, like, where is Shorter? And they tell him that Ash killed Shorter. And then the Chinese people are like, what? But they were like friends, and if that's true, then Ash betrayed Shorter. And they're like, if this is really true, we're going to kill Ash. Because obviously they don't really understand what went down. Because it's kind of hard
There's something here. They're smart here, and then they get dumb later. Because like the new Chinese guy, he's like, all right, guys, keep this to ourselves until we find out what actually happened. And I'm like, thank you. Nobody ever does that.
Yeah, right.
like he's like, I saw their friendship firsthand. I'm finding this very unlikely. And then later on, he just does a 180, and I'm like, idiot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, emotion, I guess, gets the better of everyone. I don't know. But yeah. So, and then meanwhile, Ash finds AG in the mansion since Yutlung set Ash free. And Ash sets AG free, and they're like, we need to get out of this mansion before Dino gets back. While they're doing that, the doctor downstairs is like, oh shit, stuff is going down. I gotta get out of here. Ash is on the loose. But Yutlung finds him first. And so, Yutlung's like, give me your drugs. Like, you're fucked. I don't know. Throughout this whole scene in the mansion, AG and Ash are getting, like, really lovey-dovey. Like, did you guys notice that?
Yeah, it was noticeable, for sure.
It was pretty
like,
it
when
was
they're fighting
ridiculous.
together, like, fighting off people, yeah.
Yeah, there's one point where AG is like, if I lose you too, I'll go crazy. I'll be waiting for you forever. And I'm
forever. And that goes into what I was saying last episode about, like, AG, I don't understand. I just do not understand why you're just this devoted to Ash at this point.
I totally get why they're devoted, because, like, this is an emergency, like, panic bond. And like I said, that stuff is strong. That's like a drug. But, like, don't say things like, I'll be waiting for you forever. You're not.
Yeah.
Come on, dude.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know that was interesting. Ash is pretty much killing everyone in this mansion. And AG is like going off with Ash's gang in the meantime. So it's just Ash in the mansion. AG's gone. Ash finally meets up.
Ash is.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say Ash is walking around with like nothing but like some like suspenders on and like pants. His abs are exposed. And he's just got like a freaking huge assault rifle like Rambo. And he's got like grenades and shit.
He is not fucking around.
Destroying.
Like he means business. All right, guys. So Ash finally finds the doctor and he's like, fuck you. And the doctor's kind of rambling. And he's like, oh, but Yutlung already took all of the drugs. Like, you can't take them. And Ash is like, I don't give a shit about the drugs. And kills the doc after he sees Shorter's, like, body just mangled on the table. Then Ash just burns down the entire lab because he's so emotional about everything. And as he's burning the lab, one of the Chinese rebels comes in and, like, kind of loses his shit because he sees, like, I think Shorter's sunglasses in the corner.
Yeah.
And that the whole lab is burning. And so I think he assumed, like, oh.
No, it's just the body.
Well,
It's
There's
just
a
the
lot of
body that's
fire.
burning.
I don't know. I think the
there's
lab
a lot
is
of
basically
fire,
on
yeah. It's pretty
I
much
don't
the
know.
whole lab. But yeah, and so I think he kind of assumed like, oh, Ash is getting rid of the body or something. And so I think that's why he freaks out. I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah, maybe.
But he freaks out and he attacks Ash and he's like, why'd you kill him? And Ash is really not in a good mindset right now. He's been through some shit today, all right?
Yeah,
And,
he's like to this guy like Sing Soothing. He's like, I really need a Snickers bar right now. Can you hold on like 5 minutes? Like, I need to grab a Snickers. And
But
he's like,
I
you
thought,
killed my friend.
yeah, I thought he did pretty well. Like, he doesn't kill him. He only basically tells him like, get the fuck out of here. I get lost. I can't do it. And so Sue pretty much is like, I'm gonna kill you later, and like runs off. And I'm just like, oh, this was a good opportunity for the two of you to have this discussion, and you didn't have this discussion. And I feel like this will be a regret later.
Yeah,
So
most likely. Yeah, these 2 episodes like just keep stepping up like the craziness of the whole thing, like with just like the AG in the previous episode like being tied up naked in bed, and like now like Ash is just like rampaging through a mansion with a machine gun, like just blowing people up. Like it's just nuts. Like it's just gone to a level where it's like we're not even halfway through this series. Like
I was getting ready to say we still have 14 episodes to go.
it's like, where do you go from here in terms of ratcheting up tension and stuff? I'm very curious.
More butt fucking.
Well,
Yes.
I mean, obviously.
I mean,
So, yeah,
because
that's the only way
as
to
much
go.
as they've had like a bunch of like, oh, he was tied to a bed, like there's been no actual action yet. So that's a place they could take it. I don't know.
That's true. That's
Yep.
true.
We'll see.
All right.
Ooh,
Speaking
Hey.
of butts,
yes. All the butts and
Yes.
boobs. Harukana Receive. And going forward, we learned BCom hates Akari. You just hate that character, dude.
I don't understand the point of Akari.
You complained in both episodes.
I complained
about
about her in both episodes. This is true. That was like
And
my
I'm
main takeaway from these 2 episodes.
And
Like,
I was
why is
trying to
Akari
deep
here?
dive. I was trying to deep dive. Like, what is it that BCom has against her? And I think it's partially her bubbly personality. You hate that garter belt, which is like something I barely even thought of. There was something else about her personality that I thought of, but I couldn't bring up. But like, and I'm like, she's actually kind of like their club manager or something, And then
Yeah,
you
that's
used
what
it as
she
a
is.
negative, and I was like, what?
Well, yeah, because like I don't know, like I wouldn't want to join a club and then like as like a potential player and then be like basically like relegated to the manager because I don't have a partner to play with. But like I understand what her position is. Like she came in like halfway through, like everybody else already had their dreams and their partners, and nobody else joined the club. So like, what is she supposed to do? Like she is the club manager, so
Yeah.
that's basically all she can do.
Yep. So episode 9, this is how I feel. The girls are practicing, and Akari had left to go to get the schedule for the nationals. Well, not the nationals. It was the qualifications for the nationals, right?
Right.
Yeah. And she's been gone quite a while. And the girls are like, well, where is she? Well, that would be because the tournament didn't have enough teams, and they can only let one team from Okinawa into the nationals, unlike how originally they could enter 2 teams, since the Thompson sisters won last time. And this worries her because she's afraid it's going to tear up the club apart. And so she doesn't want to do, so she calls Ayasa for advice. And pretty much it's Narumi that finally convinces her there's not much she can really do, and kind of cheers her up enough to finally have her go back to the other girls and break the bad news. She also says since it would make things difficult for her to choose who to root for, she ends up making like some hair scrunchies for all of them to show her appreciation for letting her be in the club and being her friends and all that. And she gets like really emotional about it, and it made sense to me.
So yeah, what I like about Akari is like I understand where she's coming from, like that she literally had no friends and now
Correct.
she finally has friends, you know. So I get that part of the emotional thing. I just like wish she had more investment in the club, besides just like, oh, this is the only place I can have friends. But the hair scrunchie thing was pretty sweet because she's like, I made these for graduation, but like then I found out this whole thing was happening, so I hurried up and I finished them really quick, and like she had band-aids all over her hands from like trying to fix them quickly.
But like she had that weird like child celebrity upbringing, and she didn't have any friends. So like you said, this is the first time she's actually had people she felt like friends, and also it's part of a club, so she feels like she's a part of something else. And then I would like to add, high school teenage girl, hormones are off the wall. This made perfect sense to me. I had no problem with it. So the day arrives for the qualifications, and the girls run into Mai, and of course Mai gives them some shit. And it's kind of cool because like she's like grown up a little bit and grown her hair out a little bit, so she looks more girly. And I thought that was cool, but they aren't participating because Ai's like a college student now, and she's just there as staff helping out. Both teams win their first matches, basically just demonstrating all the practice they have been doing. Before the second match, they run into the Aragaki sisters. We have not met them yet, right?
No, and I really wanted them to be the Araragi sisters from Monogatari. When I saw their name, I was like, oh god, it's the Fire Sisters. But no, it's not Aragaki.
And the youngest one demands a challenge to the Thomas sisters, and it takes them a minute to figure out who they are before they remember they beat them like way back in middle school. And it turns out the sisters are up against Haruka and Kanata for the second match. And being underestimated, Haruka and Kanata take an early lead of 7-0. They switch sides, and Aragaki sisters decide to try something different. What they start to do is put topspin on the ball when they serve. And if anybody has played like a decent amount of ping pong, or anybody who can spin the ball pretty well, you know that the ball will suddenly like dip at times. And it's also having like the second effect of like, it kind of, when it goes to like to bounce off your arms or hands because of the spin, it tends to stay there a little long, which like causes them to like fault out sometimes for like holding or shit like that. But Haruka and Kanata end up winning like the first round 21-7. They're pretty much, it's not that they're stomping them, they're just being very smart and skillful on how to beat these girls, which is really cool. Of course, the Thomas sisters are crushing their match, and the Aragaki sisters are still trying to perfect their top spin, even when it comes down to the game point, and it's at like 20-7 again. And way out of their favor. It does finally get past Haruka's block, but these two know how to work as a team, and Kanata saves it just so Haruka can spike it back and win the match. And that's that episode.
Because continue to say that music is the best part of the show
that
by
was what
far.
I was about to say, because like they do the same music that they were using before, but they like change it slightly. Like it's the same bass beat, but they've like added to it, which I like.
Yeah, and even in moments in the show, like with an inferior soundtrack to the one that this show has, like I think the show would get pretty boring at times because like it's it's just volleyball at times. It's not always very exciting. Like they managed to keep it pretty exciting, but the music really like plunges you through it. Like
the music really pulls me into their matches, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm like leaning forward in my seat, and it's because of the music, even though like there's action on the screen, but the music is really the one giving me the extra edge.
For sure.
It is very good. You guys are right.
Yeah.
Okay, episode 10, the one I wanted to fight. This one's pretty short, but it's pretty straightforward, so here we go. It's the finals, and our two favorite teams are to face off against each other to see who goes to the nationals. The match proceeds by each team trying to play on each team's weaknesses and strengths, since they both know each other very well. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. They try to play close to the line on like Kanata because she hesitates, but this backfires. She's not hesitating anymore. And really, in the end, it's mostly just the Thomas sisters being ahead because of their superior skills. I mean, they have many, many more years of experience. It's kind of what you would expect. Haruka finally gets to serve when they are down 1-4, and we just start that whole process over again. They decided to focus their serves on Claire and alternate from fast and slow to throw her off of her game because they don't think this would work on Emily. Emily's a little bit too smart. She would, she wouldn't lose her cool, but Claire, on the other hand, she probably will. So it's starting to work, and Haruka is doing her best to shut down Claire's straight spikes and force her to spike to the side so Kanata can block them, basically forcing her hand for the most part. They've switched sides, and Claire has pretty much figured out what they're doing, and she's just bring it on, And at one point, Claire does start to get kind of flustered by all, but that's when Emily steps in to calm her down, and then Emily herself then starts becoming more aggressive, and it's just oh, they weren't even giving you 100% yet. Emily's just been support this whole time. Now she's all right, I'll play a little offense. Emily's my favorite, by the way.
It was great because they did that little flashback to the scene where their mother told them when they were younger, Emily, you're gonna need to step forward one day, and Emily always saw Claire as her hero, and she would always win, and but she eventually realized that her mother was telling her no, you have to be an equal partner to your sister if you really want to be great one day. So she's taken that to heart, which is nice.
Yeah, so the Thomas sisters, they do end up winning the first set, and they kind of start the second one, and then Emily goes up to dump the ball, but then Kanata was ready for it and actually sends it back, which catches Claire completely off guard. So they get the serve back, and then the Thomas sisters look at Kanata, and they see that pure burning desire to win in her eyes again, and they're just yes, we love seeing that back in your eyes. And that's how the episode ends. So they're still playing. They still got another set, unless Haruka and Kanata win, then they got a third set. So that'll be next episode. I think the matches, especially the music, helps. I think they were pretty intense. I watched both these just before we recorded today, and I got done with them, and I was man, I think my heart rate's up a little bit. This is intense stuff. This is awesome.
The music definitely helps. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
because
I
think they did a really good job with this match.
Yeah, because sometimes I would get bored. This match was not boring, but some of the matches before this were boring for me, and the
so
music
you think the last episode
me.
Was a little bit more boring.
Yeah, a little.
The last episode a bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's the stakes aren't very high yet. Because they're facing teams we know they're going to beat.
Yeah,
but
pretty much.
This episode, we knew. Let's face it, we all know the outcome of this episode, right? Actually, next episode, we all know that Kanata and Haruka are going to win because they are the ones who have a mission to settle in by the final episode against Narumi and the other girl. So what they did was a really good job of keeping it back and forth with the tension, right, and all these shifts in advantage in the match that actually kept the match really exciting, even though that it's probably going to go this way in the end.
Right. The only way Haruka or Kanata are going to win is, which I hope they don't do this, but it's going to have to be by some a default, when the Thomas girls get injured and they can't carry on with the match.
Oh, I hope they don't do that. Yeah,
I would hate to see that, but we only have 2 episodes, so assuming the next episode is the conclusion to who gets to go to the Nationals, then what's the 12th episode about? The Nationals?
The Nationals, I think, yeah. And Narumi and Kanata, yeah.
Yeah, but Haruka and Kanata are the main characters, so why would we watch the Thomas sisters play? So I'm just interested in what they're going to do.
We will, yeah.
Yeah, but...
I kind of cringed when what's her name, Akari started singing the happy she puts our song to cheer them up, and I was I feel so bad for you. You're so cute, but this is your only role in the show.
You're only a mascot. That's all you are.
I did that side grin eye roll when I saw her doing that. This is cheesy, but it's still kind of cute.
You're a mascot who gives out hair scrunchies and sings weird songs. That's all you're good for.
Pretty much.
Now that made us all happy and laughing. Kat, how about you bring us down a couple notches?
Okay, here we go. Happy sugar lifetime, guys.
Let's dive in.
It's time. Okay, so episode 9, Dissolving Rain. So Mitsuboshi meets up with Asahi. And he says, the way he gets Asahi to meet up with him is he says he found a clue related to the flyers. And he's here's her sock. Like, this is the clue I found. It means that she's in this like far away area of town. Like, someone's probably taken her. And like, you should come with me to this deserted area of town and we can look together or something. And Asahi almost falls for this, but is suspicious and questions his story. And Mitsuboshi has some sort of like creepy, nervous breakdown about like, I guess Asahi says something about how he's just a suspicious adult, like all of the rest of them or something. And this triggers Mitsuboshi because he's like, I'm not like the people, like the person who molested me. I'm not like that. I'm not a suspicious adult. And he like freaks out and attacks Asahi. And Asahi kind of runs off, but then he regrets it because he's like, oh, that was my only clue and I've ruined it and I shouldn't have ruined it. And I'm like, no, dude, like if someone freaks out and attacks you over some small comment you made, like that's probably not a good sign. Like, I think you're fine. Asahi later tells Shoko about the situation that happened and says he's going to go in search of like the Mitsuboshi and maybe go to that part of town they were talking about earlier. Shoko kind of like yells at him in a like helpful way and tells him like he can't keep doing stuff like this and he needs happiness in his life. And Asahi's like, Shio is my only happiness, and is all dramatic and emo. And then they bond and like weirdness happens and it's like cute, and then Shoko ends up like cheering Asahi up, and then she like even kisses him, and I'm just like, what the fuck, Shoko? Like, do you usually go around kissing random deranged homeless people who like scream and cry like every time you meet them? Like, I know he looks helpless and like slightly cute, but like he doesn't look hot. Like, I don't know why you're kissing him.
Mm-hmm. Well, the weirdest part is like she said as much as what you just said, because she like was kind of like talking him down at the same time as she was talking him up, because she's like, yeah, I would want you to be my prince too, even though you're like weak and useless. And, like all these things, like it was so weird.
It was fucking strange.
It was a strange interaction. I kind of was just like fascinated by it because I was like, this is so weird.
It was odd. But yeah, so Asahi takes... Oh, go ahead.
To me, that's everybody's decision in the show. I was like, I don't understand why any of you make any of these fucking decisions. So, like,
I understand why some people...
I don't even question it. I'm just like, everybody's fucked up. I can't...
Sometimes I'm like,
any of this.
I think this is the reason. But this I don't fucking know. Maybe Shoko has self-esteem issues. That's all I can think. I don't know. Asahi takes the first train, and Sato is like on his trail. So she's sort of like, I thought that he would do this, and she was right. And so right now she's just keeping tabs on him. And we hear like in her thoughts that she plans to eliminate him at some point. So after she sort of creepily stalks him for a while, on her way back, Sato gets Shio some matching rings for their anniversary, and also like a lot of cake. And, you know, Shio loves this. Like, Sato goes back and they eat the cake and it's all very happy and sweet. But I was just thinking, like, if this is their anniversary, like, does that mean they've been together for a year? Like, she's had this kid in her apartment for a year? Or is it
I think so. Like,
for a while.
Yeah. I mean, Sato says it's the anniversary of her getting rid of that thing, which I think is, like... the person she killed.
Be the 1 month anniversary for all we know.
Well, yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, is this a 1 month anniversary? Is this a year anniversary? And by that thing, I was thinking maybe the guy who owned the apartment. I don't know.
That's what I figured it was. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting to think about though. But yeah, so she gives her the rings. It's all very happy. Shio at one point is like, I want to bake a cake for you someday and make you smile. And it's like the most saccharine thing you've ever seen for like, 10 minutes?
Yeah.
And then Shio like jumps out the door to hug Sato goodbye one day. I think the same day as she's leaving for work. And then,
and by the way, like as soon as Shio like was outside, I was like, something is going to happen here.
Same here.
Yep.
Same here.
Yep.
I was like, as soon as she leaps into her arms out through the door frame, I'm like, somebody's gonna see.
Yep. And Shoko is like standing there and takes a picture immediately. She was like waiting as proof that Shio is living in the house. And I'm like, fuck! Oh shit. And like, okay, first of all, before we get into like the oh fuck, oh shit type stuff that's about to go down, think about how long Shoko has probably waited outside this door for this picture. Like a fucking long time. Like that. This probably was. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, well, with everything that's about to happen that you're about to describe, like, we don't hear any of their conversation back and forth. It's all just like their mouths moving and like their facial expressions reacting, and like we guess basically what is being said. But I kind of felt like that was a cop out. Like, I really wanted to hear this conversation. Like, I really wanted to hear what Sato was going to try to say to like save this situation, and then like what Shoko was willing to let pass, because like as you'll see, like Shoko almost leaves. Like she almost comes to like a conclusion that like I don't know. It seemed to me like she was saying like all right, like I understand you need to have this happen. I'm gonna leave. Like here's my phone. Like I'm not gonna take the picture with me, kind of thing, right? It's weird.
I don't think that she was ever gonna let her leave, no matter what she did. Like,
yeah.
I just don't believe that, because Sato's not that kind of person.
No.
Like,
it was over, like, once she pulled her inside. Yeah.
Yeah, it was done. It was done once she took the picture, and then she smacked her. That's when that was when it was over, at least to me. But, like, yeah, so Sato hits Shoko, and, like, you're like, oh, fuck, girl, you're screwed. And, like, the sad part is that Shoko just really cares about Sato. Like, she is doing this because she also is worried about this little girl. But, like, she cares about Sato a lot, and, like, she wants what's best for Sato. And you see this conversation. Well, you see it, you don't hear it, where they're talking and talking and talking. And you see that Shoko is like, listen, I care about you, and this is what's best, and you can't live with this girl, and you don't, and blah, 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 blah. And like, Sato just cannot hear her. She's like, I don't care. The only thing I care about is that Shio's with me, and you have jeopardized this, and you have like betrayed my trust, what little of it that I had in you still. Like, you just see like her face is dead throughout this entire time that Shoko is trying to talk to her. But yeah, no, and Sato just feels like she has no choice, and like in her mind she doesn't have a choice. And and part of me wonders, like, if Shoko had been more accepting of the ant thing in like the last two episodes, then maybe Sato might have been open to this.
Right. Yeah. But in her mind she's like, no, this girl doesn't accept me for who I am. She never will.
Yeah.
And she has to, yeah.
But yeah, so like she kills Sato kills Shoko. It's pretty brutal. Like they show it, and like she's scratching up Sato's hands as Sato is stabbing her in the neck, and there's like struggling, and there's blood all over the floor, and like Shio doesn't see it go down, but like she totally sees the blood all over like Sato afterwards. And also at the very end of this episode, you see Asahi opening his phone, and he has the picture. So like she sent it to him somehow still.
Well, yeah, you saw her like touching her phone like right after she sent the picture, like before Sato even got to her. So I think she had like a brief moment where she immediately sent it to him.
Yes.
Before anything else happened.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, this isn't over. But yeah,
so there was
that
some
was fucking
shit
violent.
this episode. There was some shit. There's a scene where Shio is like tickling Sato when she gets home, and she's like tickling her breasts. I guess it's supposed to be like the side of her breast, but it's like basically her breast. And then like Shio falls on the floor on top of Sato, and she's like in between her legs, and is like shown like that whole angle of like in between her legs is shown. I'm just like, I think they're kind of dropping the pretense here that this is not like a romantic relationship. And like if that wasn't enough for me, then Shio starts like feeding her like food, like mouth to mouth in this like really cutesy way. And then Shio proposes to her like that they get married. And I was like, holy shit. That's where we're at, where this like crazed girl is taking a 5-year-old's wedding proposal seriously. And yeah, even at the very end, as like Shoko is like struggling against like Sato, who's stabbing her, like it was kind of weird that they showed a camera angle that was like her legs and like kind of up her skirt. I thought that was like a weird choice to make.
Well, because I
but the
almost
show's
thought
weird.
of this as maybe in another life, if Shoko had accepted Sato, then maybe they could have ended up together. And so this was almost like that kind of a thing.
Oh, I can see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
The romance that was not to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. But for the most part, it's like a pretty ugly murder, though. Like, when you see her, like, face after it's over, like, it's pretty bad. It's pretty visceral. So the moment played for me, but there was just some weird things about it with the sexualization in this episode that was like, I don't know about this.
It was a bit strange.
I was very sleepy with this episode until the end.
Well, it's a good time to wake up. That was a pretty crazy shit that went down at the end.
Yeah. I was sitting here going like, oh my God, this is so boring. And then at the end, I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, this is really happening, isn't it?
Yeah. All right. What about episode 10, Kat?
Yep. But honestly, I don't feel like I know you said that you thought the conversation not being heard between them was a cop-out. To me, I think they were trying to make it artsy again, like they did before.
Like they did the other episode?
Yeah, and it just didn't hit as well this time.
It didn't hit as well because, like, I could understand what they were saying, but I actually I don't know. I really wanted to hear that conversation because I thought it was important. Like, I thought important things could have been said that explained, like, Sato's thinking. Like, honestly, we know everything we really need to know about what was going to be said in that conversation. Yeah. So I understand why they went the way they did, but I still wanted, part of me just wanted to hear it out loud. I don't know.
Yep. I get what you're saying. All right. Episode 10, A Proposal Under Starry Skies. Or as I call this, the therapy episode.
Yeah. In a lot of ways.
Sato isn't taking having had to kill Shoko very well at all. I mean, Shoko was her friend. Her best friend. Shio seems to think that so Shoko did something to Sato. I guess she doesn't really understand what's happened all the way. She's too young, I guess. Because I kind of thought she'd have figured it out. But, like, I mean, she is young. So
there's
basically,
some weird things, like, I'll complain about later where, like, she is 5 years old, and sometimes she acts like it, and sometimes she acts like she's older. Like, she knows more than she should.
I totally agree with that, because there were points where I'm like, well, now she's very mature, and then there were points where like, well, now she acts like she's 5 and she doesn't understand anything. So I totally get you there. But yeah, no, so Sato's like curled up in a ball, basically in her underwear, and it's just like fucking checked out. Like, she is done. She's done. She's not seeing anything. So Shio kind of decides, well, I need to do something for Sato to cheer her up. Because, like, Sato does things for me all the time. So she goes to make curry for Sato, but then has a flashback of her old family and her trying to make curry at her old house and all of the abuse in her old family. She has a bunch of flashbacks at this point. Like, Shio has a flashback of her mom and the kimono that Shio's mom inherited from her parents. And you see her mom, like, trying to cope with the abuse from Shio's dad, and it's not succeeding always. Like, there's points where she's very cheerful, and there's points where she's very, like, fucked up and sad and not cheerful, and she, like, goes back and forth and back and forth. Then there's flashes of, like, real time with Shio going to put away some, like, laundry and seeing the bloody clothes in the laundry. And then Shio has another flashback of her mom, like, flipping her shit because Shio went outside. She gets very angry and irrational and then apologizes. And this is very common with, like, a lot of abusive families where, like, they don't allow kids to go out and they get angry and then the apology and so it's very, I thought it was very realistic for an abusive family. And But I also thought probably Shio's mom thought that the dad would come and get Shio, like if Shio went outside. That's what I'm assuming is going on here. Not sure though.
Possibly that, like, or just. I mean, her mom, like Shio, is like the only thing she has, even though it's like a huge burden at the same time for her. So I think she doesn't want to lose her either, or like if she did lose her, like what would happen to her from the dad, like finding her. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I feel like you guys just read way too much into this shit.
I mean, there's a
lot to read here. Yeah. Like, I mean, it's not. But yeah. So, and then at one point, like Shio and Shio's mom go outside, and Shio lets go of the mom's hand like for a second and almost gets hit by a car. And the mom just flips her shit, gets very angry, basically is like, you can never go outside again in your life, gets very abusive with Shio, is slapping her and blaming Shio and like basically saying it's all your fault. And then later...
at that moment when the mom slaps her and then like sees like the abusive husband in like an image of her slapping Shio,
like him.
And then screams and like falls to the floor in a fetal position. Like that was a pretty powerful moment of just like how abuse can like beget more abuse, and it's just like she's just completely destroyed in the head. Like, she just is not a right thinking person at this point anymore.
Well, she's reflecting back what's been done to her, as often happens in those kind of families. And then one day the mom just takes Shio down some side street and just leaves her because mentally, like, she can't do it anymore. And she's angry and she's done. And Shio begs her like not to leave, and she'll do anything she says. But the mom's like, I don't need you anymore. I should have done this before, and just leaves. And then it kind of snaps back to Shio being in reality. And Shio's like, I've been hurting this whole time. And Sato wakes up and at this point tries to act like everything's fine. And is like, we're going to run away. But Shio kind of sees like that Sato is just acting, and she remembers how I think her mom was always acting, and she's afraid that Sato will end up like her mom. So Shio gets really pissed off at Sato because she won't tell her the truth about things and has secrets. And Shio points out rightly that if she doesn't share anything with her and just wants her there all the time, she doesn't really need her because she's just like being a doll, She's not a real person.
There's like a line where Shio says like, "What am I to you?" And I was like, a 5-year-old doesn't say that sentence. Like, that's a sentence that's too complex for a 5-year-old to understand.
And even that thing of like, I'm just a doll. Then like a 5-year-old doesn't say things like that either. Like a 5-year-old doesn't have the thoughts in their head to be like, you need to trust me in this relationship. Like a 5-year-old doesn't think things like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
So they can't have their cake and eat it too.
It, yeah.
Yes. Yep. Exactly. But it's interesting. So Sato tries to fix the situation, but Shio just is not having it. Shio's like, no, that you can't just pretend this away. It's almost like Shio's repeating like what her mom did to her to Sato. That's what I thought in this moment, because like that's all that she knows what to do, and like kids. And people really repeat what they see. And so that's what she's doing. And when she does that to Sato just has a breakdown. Especially when Shio says that she hates her and she doesn't need her. And at this point, we get the flashback of when Shio and Sato met. And Sato asks if Shio is going to run after her mom. Because that's when, I guess basically Sato saw Shio's mom abandoned Shio.
Yeah, that's the way it seemed laid out for me.
Yeah, and Shio is like, no, because if I go after her and I'm with my mom will break. And I feel, and Sato asks her, like, is that love then? Is that why you're not going after her? And Shio is like, no, I wanted her to live so that I could keep living. So it wasn't really love. And she's right. That's like just mutual need. It's different. But also not something a 5-year-old says. That's something you think about later in your life. reflecting back. And then she says something interesting. She says, your jar is empty, but it isn't broken because you believe in something, and that's why you're not broken. And so I sort of took from this that Sato's problem is that she knows how to love and she believes in love, but she doesn't know how to trust anyone. And that's her problem. That's kind of what the show is saying. Is that what you got from this?
I think that's a fair assessment of like Sato as like a broken character. Like she sort of knows what love is. She has an idea of what it is, though like her mother has a crazy idea of what love is. And I think Sato had to like divorce herself from that crazy idea and figure it out for herself. Mm-hmm. But yeah, she has definitely trust issues. Like she doesn't feel like she can trust anyone. No.
Yeah. You mean her aunt, right?
Yeah, her aunt, sorry.
Yeah. But then Shio and Sato make up at this point, and you almost see Sato be like, I'm going to trust you more. I'm going to like tell you things. And Sato admits that she killed Shoko, and that's why they have to leave. And this solves the issue right now in their relationship. As weird as it is to say, like, their relationship, because Shio is fucking 5. Yeah. That's all I'll fucking remember. And it's all seems to be fixed. Like, Shio goes around the house saying, like, we're going to leave, but it'll be fine because I'm with Sato and, like, we'll be together.
She also keeps calling the place, like, a castle or something.
Yeah.
Because it's, like, the most extravagant place she's ever seen because she grew up in, like, a fucking dump or something.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that, and also it's just, like, because it's, like, a defensive place. Like, it's a defensive barrier against the outside world, which is scary to her. So the castle keeps her safe, too.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not really delving into the psyche of these people because I don't think the writing's good enough to actually be like come to like a serious conclusion. But since we're getting towards the end, I'm like, how does this show end? I feel like a lot of people die.
I don't know. We're gonna have to find out.
Like my guess is Shio ends up killing Sato.
Oh my god!
Either intentionally or unintentionally.
That would be intense.
I want to think it's going to go down that path somehow, or like, or it's simple. Like Sato is dying and Shio could save her, but she just lets her die anyways. And then like, does anybody get a happy ending in this show? Or is this just like another Scum's wish?
I think Scum's wish is much better than this. Come on, don't you dare.
Yes, it is.
Don't you dare blaspheme Scum's wish.
Happy ending, Kat.
Okay.
In terms of happy endings, that's what I mean. Like, because nobody gets a happy ending in Scum's wish. Yeah.
That's what characters get a happy ending in Scum's wish.
You could argue that the teacher couple, kind of gets a happy ending.
And the girl who like started making dresses for herself and like caring about herself rather than caring about her little childhood like dreams of being a princess and finding her prince, working on herself and stuff. That was a happy ending. There's some happiness in that show.
Okay. Yeah.
To answer Leo's question, I hope that Shio just like gets like separated from all of these people and like put next to some like sane people where she can maybe, hopefully, with years and years of therapy, like find a new life to live.
I was gonna say with some really good therapy.
Yeah. Everybody else can die as far as I'm concerned at this point. Like I don't care about anybody else.
This is my prediction. Shio is going to tried to be kidnapped by her brother, Asahi, because, like, there's this weird premonition at the end. Shio is going to be like, fuck no, I love Sato. I want to be with Sato. And she's going to end up killing her brother. Then Shio is going to be fucked up in the head and can't be Sato's happiness anymore. And Sato will flip out and then kill Shio.
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay.
That would be insane.
That's just a prediction. I don't know if that's what'll happen.
I think Sato and Shio are just going to live happily ever after because that's anime are dumb.
Maybe.
I don't know. We'll see. Well, one of the things I wanted to mention from, I think it was like the end of last episode, and Leo had a note about this, was like how the policeman came back, maybe?
Yeah. Because
her aunt, she's shown in that episode, and she has like a policeman's hat next to her.
Smiling.
And I couldn't remember if like the guy had like left his hat in the apartment in his hurry to like get away.
But then why would you show that? That would
Oh
be
no,
weird.
I think he came back. Because
Yeah, I
I
think he came back,
told
too.
you,
I'm pretty sure he just
I
came
told you
back.
he was gonna come back, didn't I? His face was like, I want some of that.
Yeah.
And the smile on her aunt's face is just like a victory smile. Like, I knew he'd be back. That's the vibe I got. I was like, okay.
Yeah, everything with like Sato and Shio's relationship is all really weird. Like, I understand the reasons for it. Like, Shio is just like clinging to Sato as if she is her mother, because like that's all she knows. Like, she's abandoned by her mother and she just clings to the next person she sees is Sato, and Sato is like willing to take her in. And apparently they're just perfect for each other because they're both broken in the exact right ways that they can fix each other. At least that's what the show wants you to believe. So yeah,
they're fixed. Whatever.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see.
Is that it? Take a break.
I guess that's it for the first half. So why don't we take a break and get a word from our fellow podcasters who talk about stuff.
Woo!
The Trash Pandas bring you this nugget from another trash can. What happens when Brains and Bullets discuss episode 2 of One Punch Man?
Pretty much gene splicing heads. They will
Yep.
Yeah, they will splice genes. They have a cyborg gorilla. They have frog that walks on 2 legs and communicates at long range. Like, they got... You think they splice...
The Lion King?
Yeah, they have the lion. They have a f***ing lion. Beast King. And...
Simba.
Yeah, he's f***ing Simba. I don't mean he's f***ing Simba. I mean he's f***ing Simba.
We at Trash Pandas Watch Anime dig through the trash so you don't have to. You can find the Trash Pandas Watch Anime podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter where you'll get live updates from what we do.
Warning, the following clip may contain descriptions of explicit behavior conducted by Bishi boys.
Now, that's not to say he didn't get physical. Quite the opposite, in fact. Our boy Kent was researching all the ways to please a woman.
Pulled his lever.
And he put some of that learning into effect, if you know what I mean. Let me give you a scene from the show that I really quite liked. My research shows that women find it pleasurable if men place their fingers here, then apply some pressure and begin to rub that area. Do you enjoy that? Is it giving you pleasure? Please respond. I need verbal... Please respond. I gotta get this out.
Get it out.
Please respond. I need verbal confirmation that this is something that you enjoy. Heroine Sadie tells him that it's hurting her as he's rubbing her too vigorously. Ow. Despondent Ken removes his fingers and looks at them. Perhaps I applied too much pressure. Don't worry, Kent. Head pats are difficult to master.
And that was Yata from the Reanimator Pod. If you want to hear more, you can check out our website. That's reanimatorpod.com. We release new episodes every Monday.
Don't drop that. Hey, don't drop that.
Hey, Colin, did you get the cardboard cutout of Console Kev?
Did I ever? It's amazing.
Oh, I think so too. I hate that guy. Kevin, what are you doing here?
Just eavesdropping on all the, the bad things you say about me. My usual Wednesday.
Oh, well, did you at least prepare for the Retro Gaming Podcast?
Absolutely not.
Oh, God, that figures. All right, it's okay. I'll take it from here. Basically, we pick a theme every time, and we pick a number of games based on that theme. Just like our first episode where it lasted forever and we talked about space games.
Yeah, and other good, all the mainstream systems and games you love, like the 3DO, the Atari Jaguar.
Oh, come on. Colin, you back me up here. The 3DO is awesome, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought we were friends. I mean, it's cool. All right.
If you want to hear 3 guys talk about games that are bad because JD picked them all, and good games that Kevin picked, join us.
Who here wants to see a bunch of nerds talking video games with a little bit of anime thrown in there? Nobody? Just me? Damn!
Well, speaking of anime, Colin, we have an anime cast as well.
Yes, we do. All retro anime, many of which I have never heard of myself. And I'm a weeb.
Very similar premise there. We pick a retro anime, at least 15 years or older, and we review it every episode. We also keep up on all the modern stuff, all the seasonal things from the year. Hey, Kevin, you just got back into wrestling, right?
I did.
Oh my god, did you know we also have a wrestling cast that just started?
I do now, because nobody tells me anything.
Ah, well, what do you think of the big dog these days?
He still sucks.
Well, that's good. Well, luckily, we just don't complain about WWE stuff. We also talk about a lot of the latest and greatest from the rising indie scene, New Japan, and Ring of Honor.
I like rings and honor.
Ah, well, you should definitely listen to the Red Leaf Retrocast. We have such a wide range of topics, ideas to discuss, and just anything to review. It's fantastic, don't you guys think so?
It's alright.
Absolutely. And thanks again for the Sailor Moon episode. That's got me a lifetime supply of salt for my fries. From the fans. Ha!
That's the Red Leaf Retrocast. All things gaming, anime, and wrestling, found on all your favorite podcasting websites.
And we're back with the second half, so...
No! Oh, sorry.
Revue Starlight, Leo's favorite show.
Poor Leo.
All right, just
Leo,
get this
don't
over
you
with.
want to take position 0 for yourself? Don't you want to?
Do episode 9, just get it over with.
So on the night of the Star Festival, this is episode 9, and there's a new script for the 100th Seisho Festival. It's been written by Amamiya, who's one of the girls from like Group B, who I had forgotten there was a Group B of girls, but I guess there is. And the girls consider ways to like improve this new script and like the show from last year. And they're sitting around reading through lines, and Juna like basically says, "Life is as tedious as a twice-told tale," quoting like Shakespeare's King John. And so Maya explains that like doing the same show twice would be really boring, and like the camera is just lingering on Banana, who, you know, we remember from the last couple episodes has been like repeating like the same performance over and over and over again to protect everyone from like disappointment and stuff. So she clearly disagrees with like life is as tedious as a twice told tale, because like she loves that tale and she loves repeating it. She doesn't say anything. But the girls do quickly pick on the fact that like she isn't amused by all the changes that are getting made to the performance. Meanwhile, Hikari shows Karen a book called The Starlight Gatherer, which she found in London, and which the whole Starlight play is based off of. And as they read it, we see the girls performing it, probably from the 99th Seisho Festival, or at least acting out the events of the book. And basically the lead characters are two girls, Claire and Flora, who promise to meet each other on the day of a Star Festival. But when a year passes, Claire has lost all memory of Flora because she had an accident or something. And she lost all memory of the promise as well. And because of Flora believes that if they can reach the top of the tower together and grasp the stars, both small and large, her wish to restore Claire's memories will come true. So, however, they reach the top of the tower. They're greeted by these sinful sleeping goddesses who are all portrayed by different girls in the cast. These goddesses have been trapped there for 500 years, and they don't even like really remember what they did to get like trapped there. It's been so long. Still, like Claire and Flora end up climbing the tower, but like Flora, once she gets up there, is blinded by the sight of the stars like too close up, and Claire then finally remembers Flora's name, but tragically Flora falls from the tower, and they're like separated for all eternity. So that's like the real Starlight story from the book is like this like tragedy. But like Hikari and Karen love this tragic story like with all their heart, basically. But Banana tells Yuna that she's been striving all along to like maintain her friendships with the 99th class, and has been repeating that year over and over to prevent this cycle of despair and preserve her own Starlight. So after all that gets revealed, they're called to audition in the review of Bonds. So Banana comes to the realization that it wasn't actually Hikari who changed things this year. Like she's thinking about it, and it's like, no, actually Hikari was in some of the previous competitions, it was Karen who jumped up into the auditions after always having been like low ranked and left out of the finals. And like when Hikari showed up, it's like Karen who like got supercharged. And like once she realizes this, they for the first time in a while, we see the like red "I am reborn" screen as Karen falls into the auditions and like the dope sewing process takes place. And so there's a pretty awesome fight between Banana and Karen. And like there's a pretty like powerhouse vocal that Banana is singing, telling her like she shouldn't even be here as like the 9th performer in Starlight, which is a tale of 8 girls. Like she has no reason to be there whatsoever. And Banana like declares that she hates Starlight because it's a tragedy about being separated from your beloved partner and like what could be worse. And so in a hilarious line, which I thought was like kind of like the entire series wrapped up in a single character note, Karen's reply to Banana is, "No, no, banana." Which is so ridiculous. But like more seriously, like she argues that performances are magical, and like although they burn away in the moment of time, they're irreplaceable and they do have value regardless. And like she says, like her whole philosophy is that stage girls are reborn each time that they take the stage. And that's why like when she falls into the performances, you see that "I am reborn" thing, because she's being reborn as a new star every time she takes the stage. The vocals in the background change from Banana to Karen's song about her bond with Hikari. And Banana like pleads with her to change her mind, but Karen like won't, and she's too determined. She defeats Banana, slicing off her button and her little cape. And like afterwards, Juna consoles Banana with like some choice quotes. Like she just quotes a whole bunch of different philosophers and people about how you have to move on and embrace the future rather than repeating the past over and over. And Banana admits that she had been changing her repeat performances in small ways each time to try and create something better. And so Juna just like reassures her that, you know, that's the mark of a true stage girl, is to strive to be better with every new performance. And like hugs her, and like Banana like has like a nice cry in her arms, and they promise like to make the next Starlight together with all of the experience she's taken from like repeating it over and over and over again. I actually really liked this episode. I think it was one of the best of the series, just overall, like plot wise and just like animation. There were some really cool cuts of like high frame rate animation. There's like kind of unsettling moments where like the sinful goddesses are shown. They all open their eyes like very, very smoothly at like a very high frame rate. There's like a similar moment where Hikari's face turns to the camera when Banana is talking about like what has changed from her repeat performances. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen those like really high frame rate anime music videos, like AMVs, like for like Monogatari or something, that have like those super smooth like moments of animation where like people are opening their eyes and stuff. Like this is what that reminded me of. Okay. And I could totally see this like eventually being used in an anime music video because of that.
Okay.
I like would bet money on it happening. So that was cool. You guys have any thoughts on this episode?
No, I don't want to break your pace. So just like episode 10 is titled, "The Show Must Go On." Go for it, Beacon.
Out of curiosity, did you watch this episode?
Halfway.
I don't know if I believe
Honestly, after the last few episodes, I'm pretty checked out of this show. I just can't.
I'm here and it's on screen, but like half the stuff you said I didn't remember.
Okay, that's fine.
It's really hard. I'm sorry, it's just hard for us. I don't know.
No, I don't know. Like at the beginning of the season, I really liked this show, and like as it's gone on, it's just not.
Yeah,
it's not what I wanted it to be.
I would say that like episodes 7 and 8 definitely kind of lost me a bit, but this episode got me back a little bit. The next episode, I was like, I'm not sure though. So. Episode 10, "The Show Must Go On." So the final day of auditions begins. The only remaining participants are the final 4, Karen, Hikari, and Maya and Claudine. There's some like just pointless slice of life stuff at the beginning of this episode, like that I thought was really only there to pad things out because it didn't add anything to the show whatsoever. It only lasted a couple minutes. It gets slightly more interesting when we check in on how Maya and Claudine are preparing for the audition. Like they're stretching together in one of the dance studios, and like Claudine is recalling how she's always been second place to Maya ever since their first auditions. But she thanks her for putting her in her place because it like destroyed her cocky overconfidence that she had, like being born as like a child star and everything. And it allowed her to be reborn as a new performer. So there's like clearly a huge theme of being reborn at this point in the show. But now she wants to prove that she's more than just a supporting role. And so she like kind of challenges Maya again. Meanwhile, Karen upholds a promise she made to Hikari to like go back to that like jellyfish aquarium with her again. And they remember their promise to like perform Starlight together from when they were children. And this was followed by like a frankly pretty creepy scene where they each promise each other that they haven't changed from that day. And you see their adult selves talking to their child counterpart. So like adult Karen will be like holding like child Hikari's hands and like vice versa. And I see what they were trying to do. Like they're trying to say that like, oh, they're just like the same little girls, like maintaining their promise. But it just was like really weird and awkward to like see it like that. I don't know. I just got kind of creeped out. Yeah, so like also like there's like this scene where like the two of their child versions are watching themselves, like the adult versions of themselves from like some bleachers as they fulfill their promise. I don't know. It's supposed to be nice. Whatever. I'm weird. So Hikari is clearly struggling with the realization that she's likely going to need to fight Karen as they call for the audition. They get called. When they arrive, the draft tells them this will be a review duet, a special 2-on-2 battle. And then, like, I thought that they were going to split up the teams. Like they were sitting in areas where it was like Claudine and Hikari were next to each other, I think, and the other two were sitting. What?
I was just kind of like, duh, when they picked partners.
Well, it was the way that they were situated. I thought like the draft was going to switch things up, so like they had to like fight with one of each. And so when they like went back to like their normal teams, I was like, oh, like once the draft gave them a choice, I was like, oh, okay, so they're just going to choose each other. I thought that was just a little bit boring. Like, I thought there was something they could have done if they had split up the teams and made them fight each other, which would make them conflicted. But the show is way too boring for that.
I might have enjoyed it more if they had done that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I was like, this is such a boring decision. Why are we doing this? Like, what was the point of even putting them in that, like, courtroom-like setup? I don't know. Whatever. So Maya chooses Claudine, Hikari chooses Karen. All of the other girls like get plunked down in the audience and get like bento lunches to eat, and they just like eat lunch and watch. And so this is actually going to be called the Review of Fate officially, and if any girl loses their jacket, their team loses. The fight commences, and it's a pretty decent fight. Like Claudine and Maya basically just stunt on Karen and Hikari the entire time. Like they are just so far beyond them. I honestly see no reason why Hikari or Karen should win this fight. Like they're clearly inferior, but hey, like I guess miracles occasionally happen. So Claudine and Maya seem to strengthen their bond as they both realize they're the only ones who can keep up with each other's like immense shine. Like they're just like falling in love with each other as they're like beating the shit out of Karen and Hikari. And so Hikari reaches out to Karen in a moment where they're regathering themselves, and they like hold hands and tell each other, we're reborn. And then they swing through the air as one, and this somehow gives them more power than they had previously. And so Karen and Maya are thrust towards each other in the air, and that was a pretty cool moment of animation. And they're like each singing at the top of their lungs and stuff. And in the end, like the tip of Karen's sword is the one that unbuttons Maya's cloak. At this point, Claudine is just like inconsolable. Like she can't believe that Maya has lost. Like she breaks down into just like speaking French. Like she's so angry, and is only consoled when Maya speaks a bunch of like barely passable French back to her, which is very cute, saying that like Karen and Hikari just had a bit more Starlight than them in this review, and that Claudine is really cute when she cries. And Claudine's like, you annoying woman. Oh my God. And so Hikari and Karen are lifted on this platform after the performance above the stage. And then the draft is like, the review of tragedy will now commence. And as Hikari suspected, only one of them can pass this audition. At least that's what she believes this means. And so in one swift stroke, after like thanking Karen and telling her that she can't let Karen's shine be stolen, Hikari betrays Karen and slices her button off like out of nowhere before Karen could even do anything, and says like goodbye to her. And in a way, I think Hikari feels like she's doing this to prevent Karen from having to defeat her, like having to like turn the tables and be the one who betrays the other's trust. I think she feels like this is protecting Karen. And I'm curious how the show continues onward after this, just like logistically. Like technically Hikari should have just won the auditions since she won. Maybe the giraffe isn't satisfied because it wasn't like a real fight. But like if she has won, then I guess she can make a wish. So I wonder what that wish is going to be. Maybe she'll change like the whole landscape of the audition so they can win together and fulfill Karen's wish. But I don't know what's going to happen.
So when I saw it, I was kind of comparing Hikari and Karen's fight with Claudine and Maya's against Haruka and Narumi's and Emily and Claire's from Harukana Receive.
Yeah.
And like, I think Revue Starlight dropped the ball on this one because like the other two are obviously the better. But then like Harukana Receive, I mean, we haven't seen the next episodes, but it's clearly showing that Emily and Claire are the better. Which is... Yeah, and I think it's just doing a way better job. Like Haruka and Kanata should not win, but and then Revue Starlight, that's what they did, and I'm just like, well, okay, whatever, fine.
Yeah, it was just they just won. I mean, it really basically came down to like as talented as Claudine and Maya are, they are separate. They are not like working together. They're like working alongside each other as two super talented people. And like I guess the message of this show is that like, you know, Hikari and Karen share this dream. And so... Yeah,
but then when you watch it, you're like, wow, their teamwork is amazing. Why did they still fail?
Yeah, exactly. Like, that doesn't really make sense for the theme that they're going for.
Yeah.
Like, if they were going for that, like, they should have been uncoordinated and, like, both be really talented, but be, like, running into each other or something.
At the most, you would have seen both of them trying to be the lead role. Be the one better than the other one, and that's what should have been like their undoing, but that's not even what happened.
Yeah. Yeah, I will say I do love that this show goes for those like big moments where they're just like singing, like both of them are like singing at each other, kind of like aggressively. Like I just love like the cheesy musical moments like that. It's fun.
We all know you like idol shows, Becom.
This is so weird for an idol show, though. It's very different, at least. So it's been interesting to watch in that sense. But yeah, like I agree. Like I'm very curious about these last couple episodes. I've heard interesting things about them. So yeah, we'll see in the next episode of the podcast how that goes. But let's move on. Kat, I think you have this one.
Awesome.
Yep.
Yes, I do. Okay, so episode 9 of Cells at Work. It's called, I believe, Thymocyte. I don't know. So this is another fucking boring episode. Like,
Kat never is one to bury the lead.
No, so like, I'm kind of annoyed with this whole. I don't know. Like, there are times when this show is still fun. Right. But a lot of the time now, this show is just filler. Have you noticed that? There's a lot of filler in the show now.
Yeah. I mean, I sort of noticed it early on as the show was going, because like every new episode would have like, hey, we're inside of a body at like the very beginning. It's like a, you know, you can watch this show week to week and not feel lost. It's very episodic. But yeah, as we're going on, like we keep hearing about like the same cell over and over again. Like this cell, who we've seen for 7 episodes now, does this. And it's just like, yeah, we know that cell does that because you've told us for 7 episodes. And it's like,
I know. Yeah, like they repeat the same thing. They even repeat the same scenes very often. Like not even like once or twice, like a lot. Like I know you've talked about it before, Leo. There's a scene in the next episode 10, that they repeat just the whole entire thing, like 5 minutes of the episode. They repeat it. Where like she's going to deliver oxygen, and it's like this squished in space.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah,
she
yeah.
like goes. They totally just took that entire scene from the other episode and put it in again.
Yeah.
Like, don't do that.
Yeah, it's kind of
Like,
weird.
and it's not even productive to the show. Like, they just did it because they don't have enough time to fill the 22 minutes that they need or whatever, and so they added it in. And it's like, I'm mad at them for that. It's still enjoyable sometimes. Like, the next episode after this one is fun, but I'm a little irritated with it. It's like, come on, you can do better. So at the beginning of this episode, the opening is sung by like some of different voice actors this time. I think it's the white maid cells voice actor. Oh, what is she called?
Macrophage?
The macrophage.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It sounds like the macrophage's voice actor is singing it this time. And I think they're kind of like, we need to do something different because we've been like doing the same thing and people are getting bored. We need to do something. You know, so then you see a bunch of T cells practicing, and it's almost like they've set it up like the T cells are the army, right? And like all these people are in the army and they're training and they're getting better. And then inside this like fort, there's the helper T cell and regulatory T cell, and they're drinking tea inside this fort. And then one of the kind of like soldier guys crashes through the window and just like hits the helper T cell guy who's kind of like an office worker, and like fighting starts because like the commander comes in and he's like, what, one of my people fell, like what you gonna do? And the helper T cell's like, oh, I could have hurt myself, and you know, all that. And while that's going on, you see Dendrick Cell, which I call Leprechaun Guy because he looks like a leprechaun. He does.
I mean, he's all in green. Yeah, I can get it.
Yeah. So he comes over and he's like, tee-hee-hee, little recruit people, do you want to know why these two have this relationship? And I'm just like, this is weird. And have you ever noticed, like, the amount of pictures that he has is creepy and stalker-like? Like, what the fuck, dude?
Well, that's his
like,
job.
Well, but like, he can't possibly take pictures of every single person in this entire body, every single cell, constantly.
Well, Kat, he is
there
the
would have to be
personification of a cell, so we can stretch a lot of sensibility in like real life stuff.
Listen, now you're just being practical, and you know better.
Damn
than
me
that,
for being
Leo.
practical.
He's in charge of the body's yearbook club over and over, forever and ever.
Do you think that he's like the only cell that doesn't die or something, since he's like the one who keeps track of everything?
I mean, I don't know how dendrite cells like work and like what their like lifespan is like, but either that or they pass information on to the other dendritic cells, like and like they just maintain that information over a long period of time. I don't know.
But yeah, so he's showing the recruits like all these pictures of helper T cell and like officer T cell, like they used to train together at school. And he's like, look at them train together when they were weak and wimpy. And it shows, like, then there's a whole flashback scene, and it shows them as you know, recruits, the two of them. And they're taking a test. Like, they take tests to see, like, who is the best T-cell recruit, because only a certain small amount of them can become, like, actual T-cells in the end. I think they call it positive selection. And only like a few top % get picked.
Yeah,
and that was interesting.
Yeah, like not all adolescent cells evolve into like the bigger version of them, and like the T cell can evolve. The adolescent T cell can evolve into like the three we have here: the killer T cell, regular T cell, or the helper T cell. So it could be any of them. So.
Yeah, so they talk about how like only a few top % get picked. You see like practice tests of them doing this, and then they take the real test at the very end of the episode. And you basically see like helper T cell is obviously more talented naturally, but killer T cell and helper are friends. And And it almost reminded me of like a nicer version of Sasuke and Naruto, because like there's this scene where like Helper T-Cell like sees Killer T-Cell like practicing alone in the woods after everyone else had left, and his hands are bandaged.
This is your stereotypical like shonen. We're rivals, but we're best friends. I'm thinking of like Black Clover, also off the top of my head, and just like it's in all of them. But yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, because it just reminded me of so many scenes from Naruto where like Sasuke is sitting there like looking at Naruto. Naruto's like, "Oh, I'm gonna do it again," and like he's all scuffed up. So I had a little laugh at that because I'm like, really, this is what we're doing. And he like yells out this really embarrassing attack name. And so like then when at the end when they're finally doing the final test, like Killer T-Cell is about to die, like he's about to not pass, and Helper T-Cell like yells out the attack name, and it like flusters him and makes him turn around, and he sees like the enemy and attacks it, and that's how he passes. But honestly, I don't know why he needed the help. Because, like, his friends kept yelling at Killer T-Cell, like, behind you. And it's like, it's not that hard if people are yelling at you behind you for you to turn around. Like, I don't know why he needed also someone to fluster him.
I mean, he is super dumb, I think was the point of that scene.
Yeah.
Like, he's like,
I guess.
Like, when in Helper T-Cell flustered him, like, he doesn't actually turn around. He just gets, like, startled, and then he, like, headbutts his head back, and hit the back of his head like headbutts the virus, and like that's how he passes. Like he doesn't even ever turn around. Like he can't figure that out.
Yeah, and like everybody's yelling like they're behind you, to the right, to the left. Like he keeps turning, but he's always too late. So yeah,
I'm just like, why is this so difficult for you? Like really, he shouldn't have passed if he needed that much help, because like that was sad.
Right.
Other notes for this episode, there's a point where the anime sub uses the word maudlin, which I was pretty impressed that they used that word. I was like, oh, okay, we got some vocab in here. And then at the end, they have like one of those don't give up bullshit speeches once again, and that all shonen have, where it's like, we're rivals, but like we're friends and we're not going to give up and we're going to keep working hard. Yeah, believe it or whatever. And I'm just like, come on, what is this? Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
This is the shonen episode. That's all I'm going to say.
It was boring. It really was just a trope skinned in this anime style.
Yeah.
That's all this episode was.
Yeah, I just want to say I saw a rock wall, so that was in there.
I saw that too.
Give me an anime about rock climbing already. And I think what the biggest disappointment was, you don't learn anything new in this episode. And I think people are kind of expecting this, and then everybody watched this, and then it didn't help that it was just mostly shonen trope, and everybody was just like, what the hell is up with this episode? It felt like a lot of just a big filler episode, like you said.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with all of your guys' points, and like as well. Like my big thing is like if this had come earlier in the season, like if it come like episode 3 or something, I think it would have been a lot more acceptable, because we could have taken it as like, oh, they're building up like these characters, like they're giving us their backstory so that when they do something with them down the line, like we'll be more invested in them. But like,
yeah, you are right. That makes a whole lot more sense.
At episode 9, like going into these characters' backstory just does not make much sense anymore. It's like, why are we doing this? Because it really doesn't matter unless they're going to play a big role in like the final 2 episodes, and like this will come into play for some reason. Like, I don't know. Yeah, it just seems like at the wrong time in the series to do this. But yeah,
right.
All right. So episode 10, Staphylococcus aureus. So this episode starts off with some cutesy stuff, like red blood cell, like poking Platelet Chan's cheeks again, because like the audience loved that last time. It looks like she has gained some newfound confidence, and she's like doing her job pretty well, red blood cell. But then she's instantly being chased by a germ again, and this time she's saved by some like person in a yellow hazmat suit. And it's like, who the heck is this person? And so they take care of the germ before white blood cell can even get there to help out. And like the yellow hazmat suit person doesn't really talk. They just awkwardly breathe through their mask in like a weird, I don't know, like stalkery way. So we find out that this is a monocyte, which is just another type of white blood cell that takes part in biological defense. It's like makes up a small percentage of white blood cells. There's nothing else like super special about them. At least they don't reveal anything yet.
Right.
The nasal cavity is portrayed as a hot springs resort, which I thought was fun and made sense because it's warm and humidifies the air that enters the body. Then it like prevents damage to your like pulmonary alveoli walls. So it makes sense for it to be hot springs. Red blood cell notices monocyte getting a nice warm foot bath, and then also grabbing a cold chocolate milk out of a freezer. And I was like, yes. This is the right thing to do.
I know you were saying it makes sense or whatever, but it is disgusting that they are literally all bathing in snot. That is disgusting.
Oh my god.
Oh.
It does not make sense to me. I would not want to bathe in snot.
Just think.
I'm just letting you all know.
Every time you blow your nose, you're just like ejecting a huge hot springs party from your body. Like just a whole bunch of people.
God.
Who are
I'm just
taking a foot
imagining.
bath.
I'm just imagining some sicko being like, I'm going to save all my snot up, and one day I'm going to put it all in a tub and just bathe in it. It's disgusting.
So
that's basically what they're doing.
No, it's funny.
What? It's true. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh, also, like besides the cold chocolate milk, red blood cell munches on some like glucose-filled steam buns with a few platelets, which was funny. So yeah, shit hits the fan when they come under attack by a bunch of like highly toxic yellow-colored Ojosama antigens called Staphylococcus aureus. Like I say Ojosama because they're like the kind of like villains in anime.
Yeah. Yes.
The white blood cells handle them pretty easily until they form a grape-like cluster, which is what gave them their namesake. Staphylococcus means grape-like. So they fuse together and form one giant, like, Godzilla-like enemy. And she's pretty nasty. She uses the fibrin that the platelets, like, gather to mend wounds, and she uses it as a shield for herself, like a barrier to block the white blood cells' attacks. And she calls her special move coagulase, which is, of course, an enzyme that coagulates blood by precipitating fibrin. So when things are looking grim, a bunch of these monocytes in the hazmat suits show up in their creepy suits to save the day. But it turns out monocytes, when they circulate outside of blood vessels, are just macrophages or become macrophages. So in the show, they take their suits off, revealing their macrophage form and blowing red blood cells like freaking mind, and then and, like making her ask a lot of questions. And then the macrophage like happily
dumbstruck.
Yeah, they just like beat the crap out of Staphylococcus with like their mallets and like all their huge weapons, and like smiling and giggling the whole time. And yeah, it was fun.
I just want to say thank you for going back to telling our stories this way. Cells at Work, because this is how it's supposed to be. This is why this episode's good, and why the last episode wasn't that good. We learned some new information. Some action stuff happened. There was no stinking flashback.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Stop with the fucking flashbacks. Also, I had no idea that Staphylococcus meant grape-like. Because in my brain, I just think of it like staph like
infection.
A staph infection. Like, ew.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds pretty fun.
Associate grapes with staph infections.
No, I don't want to do that. Grapes are one of my favorite fruits. God damn it. Don't do that to me.
Well, it's okay.
Now, every time I look at a bunch of grapes, I'm going to think about staph infection.
Exactly.
And then I'm going to think about you, Leo.
Oh, man.
And then I'll be pissed off. I'll be like, fucking Leo. And then I'll be angry at you again.
I can't wait for the message. I hate you, Leo. I just had to throw away these grapes. And I'll just laugh. And people will be like, what the fuck's wrong with that guy?
All right. Leo, why don't you take it away with the next show?
All right. Asobi Asobase, episode 9. Troubles of a Fake Foreigner, a Dutchy Wife, and Genetic Engineering. So Olivia's the whole pretend I can't speak Japanese well gig is like starting to be like a real burden on her. People keep asking her for advice and she can't help because she doesn't know a lick of English. She asks Hanako to like go over to a popular group of girls and tell them Olivia that she can't speak Japanese fluently, but Hanako like, that's impossible. I would have a better chance of like, she says like jumping out the window and landing on my bottom or something like that from the second story. And Olivia's like, actually that does sound plausible. But anyways, later then Hanako does kind of feel sorry for Olivia and like writes on a piece of paper that Olivia can speak Japanese and like just passes it along like it been passed to her in the first place. It does end up getting to Kasumi. And at first she is like noble and believes she should change it because Olivia tried so hard to keep up this persona. But ultimately her thoughts turn dark as she thinks Olivia would become too popular and she would be stuck in the Pastimers Club all alone with Hanako and her melted face. Those are her words.
Well, okay, let's be real though. Like Hanako is the weirdest fucking person in this entire show. So like it's valid that she feels that way, yes, right?
Yeah. It is. But it's all for her selfishness. So
oh my gosh, but no, like also this whole mess is just another thing that's happened because Olivia can't fucking learn English. She literally has 2 people in her house who speak English. Why can she not learn English from them? Also, if you have a kid in a foreign country and both of you speak English, why would you not teach your kid English?
I guess they just only spoke to her in Japanese the entire time.
If I know anime, both of her parents have been on a business trip for the last 15 years.
Good call.
Yeah, very true. Very true. But maybe it's kind of like, have you ever met those like first generation Latino kids who like they don't speak Spanish and like but their parents speak a lot of Spanish. Maybe it's kind of like that.
Yeah, you know? that happens all the time. I have a bunch of friends like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Kasumi ends up changing it to make it sound like Olivia is an unapproachable princess, but like the teacher catches a note and on the second pass and like asks Olivia if it's true. She denies it and like everybody still thinks the exact same thing about her. So like
useless.
She got nowhere. Useless. She got nowhere with this. So so in the second part, Olivia obviously gets voted to represent her class in an English speech contest because everybody thinks she speaks very well. That line alone tells you Olivia's in like some deep shit now. So in the club, Olivia asks Hanako why she didn't say anything, and she says she was so caught up in the predicament that she got her own self into what? No, she started laughing like so hard that the own predicament that Olivia got herself in that she couldn't even say anything. So that was like hilarious. And then so she suggests that like, why don't you just study, Olivia? And Olivia's like, no, I'll never study. I can never study. So Hanako calls Maida, who pops up, of course, and scares the shit out of her. And she's like, Kasumi, why weren't you scared? But like Kasumi just saw him crouched behind her, waiting for her to call on him. So that's pretty funny. So Maida has a solution to this problem. And his solution is that they have turned a blow-up doll that looks exactly like Olivia into a robot. And
it's really bad.
And it sounds exactly like Cat.
Oh my god, it does not sound like me.
The cat robot says, "Today I had sex with a man 4 times. And I'm going to have an exciting sex with the cool guy tonight." And I was like, oh my god, it's Cat.
Oh my god. No, you fucking bitch. Oh my gosh.
But like, okay, the robot after that quickly becomes like insane though. But like at those first 2 moments, I was like, just the way the like voice actress like pronounced these weird lines, I was like, I've heard Kat have that crazy inflection in her voice before. This is really funny to me.
Oh my god! So the robot.
But no, what I learned from this is that her grandfather like has a lot of sex with prostitutes. Like a lot of sex with prostitutes.
Oh,
like he's going to like different countries and having like a fun time.
Yep.
Like
so anyways, the robot that looks like Olivia does sound exactly like her, and it was programmed by Maida and Hanako's grandfather. So you know where this is going, obviously. And so they end up speaking to it in English, but when it answers, they don't quite realize it's just talking about sex with them. They thought, like, at one point it said 6 or something, but it's only speaking the English that Hanako's grandfather knows. So that's nothing but shit you hear in porn videos, and you've already heard an example from BCom.
Yes.
So Sensei shows up and realizes it only says bad stuff. So she tells it she will teach it decent language, but then it becomes self-aware and starts choking Sensei and saying it only wants to talk dirty. I only want to talk dirty. so they end up letting it to continue to talk dirty, and they just asked the best English speaker in the class to do the competition instead. Every word out of that doll's mouth, I was rolling.
It was great.
Oh,
and
God,
like you said,
it was pretty good.
The voice actor, the way they I've been praising the voice actors, but just the way she said it was just, oh, geez, it was so hilarious.
It was perfect.
And it's one of
I love how aggressive the doll gets too.
Yeah.
Like, I love how, like, she's like, no, I have my own personality.
I want to. Well, what I thought was really funny about this is, so it's English is what her grandfather knows, so he knows it secondhand. So like the voice actor speaking like she did any other time we would make fun of it makes fucking perfect sense.
Yep.
Because she's supposed to be talking in this English, like we like to call it sometimes. So it was so good. Oh man, and on to the final one. So,
oh my God, this, yes, okay.
Kat, are you ready for this? You seem very excited.
I'm so ready.
So Olivia has her manga confiscated, and the teacher calls her house. Her parents aren't home, so her brother gets the call instead, and he's going to come to the school himself and apologize. Hanako, who I'm sure lots of young girls either had crushes on, you know, their friends' older brothers, or, you know, wonder if they're good looking. I mean, I know if I had a friend, they're like, I have an older sister. You know, my first thought is, I wonder if she's hot. So Hanako.
Well, but I think the idea here that they were going for is that Hanako, like a lot of Japanese people think that foreigners are really hot just on the fact that they are foreigners, right? And so I think what they were going for, because they do make a lot of jokes about like foreigners in this anime, is that like Hanako immediately assumes that Olivia's brother is hot because he is a foreigner. And so she like has this whole image of him in her mind. It's like this.
And they've been doing that with Olivia the whole time. Like the expectations from her just to be completely let down. So they're doing it with her brother again also. But like I said, I think most people have had this thought before anyways. So Hanako ends up dreaming up that, you know, Olivia's brother must be like hot, and she totally wants to hook up with him. And she's like, I wouldn't mind Olivia calling me older sister or something like that. It was just funny. So Olivia's brother arrives at the school, but the guard won't let him. So Olivia's brother calls her and, you know, like, come to the gates, let me in. So like then all the girls go down there. And unfortunately for Hanako, when they get to the gate and see Olivia's brother, he's basically a carbon copy of BCom.
Mm-hmm.
I kid. BCom doesn't look like that. Just imagine a stereotypical otaku like BCom. So they get him and they go into the school, and Olivia's brother is on the staircase, and he takes a big sniff and he says, "The scent of middle school girls is so powerful, it gives me a tingle where I took an arrow to the knee."
And at this point,
I was
like,
immediately
Japan,
like, this
please
man.
fucking stop with the arrow to the knee jokes.
I know.
It's over.
I was like, this man needs to be banned from all middle schools.
When I watched this, I paused and I got into our chat and I was like, they're making arrow to the knee jokes and Asobi Asobase. And I was just,
God damn.
And I think BCom, you reply with a really?
Like, why? Oh, it's been 7 years since Skyrim came out. Like, stop it. It's over. The meme is dead. Move on.
Oh god. So Olivia's brother begs the teacher for the manga back because he wants to read it himself. And when I say beg, like, I mean hands on the hands and knees, pleading for it back. And like at the end, you could just tell the teacher's like, Jesus Christ, just take it and get the hell out of here, weirdo. But finally, Olivia's brother gets Hanako's line number. And it's funny how he gets it because he like asks Hanako and she's like kind of just does it because it's a kind of, it would otherwise be rude. And then like when he asks Kasumi for it, she's like, I have an old phone and it doesn't work with it. And Hanako's like, damn you. So he then messages Hanako that night and like he's like just asking her to look after her sister and if she needs anything to come and talk to him. And then like at the next day at school, Hanako's like, your brother's actually kind of cool through the phone, but in real life he's a weirdo.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like it's hilarious at the point where like I have the blue eyes like Olivia and he takes his glasses off and it's like almost like a close-up Steven Seagal type look. I don't know. It was too funny. Like he could almost be handsome if like he'd like worked out a little bit,
lost
got in shape.
50 pounds,
Yeah.
and not said things like the scent of middle school girls.
Right. Yeah, without those things, you're like, you could actually be a pretty damn decent person, dude. But he's like a genius too. Like he finished college and all this stuff, and like has like some degrees, but like he's a super otaku, so he just stays locked in his room. And like Olivia is like infatuated with him, so that's like it's kind of cute, I guess. But
God, yeah, this episode was okay. I think this is probably if I had to say, I think this would be my least favorite episode of the show so far, though.
Really?
Just, like,
really?
On the balance, like, I thought it was not as funny as many of the other episodes. But maybe I'm just misremembering.
I had a lot of fun with it.
I really like this one.
I mean,
I liked the middle part, but didn't like the first and last parts, basically. Like, I thought the first part was kind of like a repeat in a lot of ways. And I thought the last part was like the same otaku jokes you've seen for a million years. So I was like,
the last part hit become too close to home.
Yeah, it was literally
that's what it was.
So I was like, oh, that's my plaid shirt.
Yeah.
Oh.
I will say the first and second part were kind of they could be considered kind of meh, but like the third part just fucking killed me. But I think Kat nailed it. It just hit a little too close to home for Beacon. So
all right, Kat, tell us about the secret of the dong.
Ooh. So this episode starts out in modern Japanese class, and we find out through a series of kind of clues, they don't tell you outright, that Fujiwara, that girl who took over for Olivia last episode when she couldn't do the English cultural festival or whatever, is actually a foreigner herself.
Yeah.
But because she looks very Japanese, no one suspects that she is a foreigner. And so she hasn't said that she is, and she has the opposite problem of Olivia, which is really hilarious to me. So Fujiwara is really excited because she thinks like, okay, Olivia is a foreigner. Olivia and I can talk in English. This will be great. I'll finally be able to talk to someone, because you like see in her inner monologue that her Japanese is very broken and it has a lot of English like words interspersed in there. Like, when she doesn't know the Japanese word, she just says the English word and then goes right back to Japanese, which for most Japanese people, they're not going to understand. And so she's just like super quiet, and everyone thinks that she's just like this very quiet girl. But really, she's not. She just can't talk to anyone. So Fujiwara goes up to Olivia and like is asking her like, hey, I can talk English with you anytime, da 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 da. And Olivia is like suspicious immediately, and she's like, Fujiwara is testing me. She's trying to blow my cover. But I'm like, wait, in the last episode, that's what you wanted.
Yeah, right.
You wanted her to, so it's weird. But like, Kasumi is desperate to stop Fujiwara from blowing Olivia's cover, because like, she doesn't want to be left alone with Hanako, as we discussed before, because Hanako is fucking weird. That's not even what it is. Let's be real. Like, later on in this episode, doesn't she like come up with some weird thing about poop? Like, Hanako is just fucking weird.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell, Hanako?
She lives in like
you need help.
She views the world completely differently, and like she's never had it harder in her life because she's rich and all that. So like you can tell it's hilarious.
I mean, I love Hanako, but Hanako's just a little odd. I can understand. She needs someone to balance her out. So she corners Fujiwara and is like, you can't be spreading this around, because Fujiwara figures out pretty quickly that Olivia doesn't know English. And so when Kasumi corners Fujiwara, she like kabedons her, and she's like, you can't tell anyone about this. And Fujiwara just immediately misunderstands this gesture, but like she fucking likes it, and she's like, I may have opened a new door. And so she starts hitting on Kasumi, and Kasumi is not into it, but Fujiwara starts like blackmailing Kasumi and is like, if you don't want me to tell everyone, then you gotta date me. You gotta come on a date with me. But then Fujiwara is cock blocked by Asara, who comes and saves her. And like when she like saves Kasumi from Fujiwara does this like very dramatic haiku, like, oh, I've been foiled, but I will come again, or something.
Yes.
And I was like, what? But then Azara kisses her, and you're just like, what the hell, Azara? And then, unfortunately, Hanako sees the kiss and is very angry, which I couldn't quite figure out why she was so pissed off. Like, it was a little odd to me.
Because she's jealous, I guess.
I guess she's jealous. Yeah, I don't know.
I guess, but whatever. So she's angry, but like also later, Hanako and the girls are just hanging out in the club room. And so Hanako gets this idea that she wants the other girls to say poop at an inappropriate time. God knows why, because it's fucking Hanako.
Right.
So she creates a strange game where she's like, everyone write down 10 words on cards, and we're going to like shuffle them and put them on our foreheads and guess what is on our heads with hints from other people. And so they do this. None of the other girls get poop, but Hanako gets poop on her head, and she knows immediately what it is, like with one hint, because like she made all of her 10 words like poop, so she knows that's what it is. And so she gets it immediately, and the other girls are just fucking astounded. They're like, how did she know?
Well, like,
oh my God.
The whole thing is that like Hanako is like she wants to play the game, but like when she sees like when one of the other girls has like kiss on her head, and then she sees that like that girl, like Kasumi is like really embarrassed about something. She's like, fuck this game. I need to figure out what this shit's about. Like, so like when they ask her like, well, your thing on your head is like brown, and like she's like, poop, like instantly throws it against the floor.
Yep.
Like, she's like, no, we need to move on.
She's like angrily like, it's poop. Fuck. Yeah. But yeah, so then after that, like after she's like, we need to move on, Hanako is like interrogating Kasumi. Like poor Kasumi. Like you would do a criminal. She's like, did you kiss someone? Did you? And then she finds out that it's Azara, who they think is a girl. And so, of course, immediately, Japan, because, kissing between girls is just an extension of shaking hands. And I'm like, oh, honey, I can tell you it's not. You're cute. So that tension is resolved for now. But then we move on to the next scene where Kasumi has a dream where Azara just like upskirts her and like she has a dick, basically. Mm-hmm. And oh my God, the skit, it's amazing. Like, all of the girls are making pancakes in class, which I always think is adorable that Japanese people call them hotcakes, because it just sounds like something you would use in preschool. Because like the only time I've heard anyone in the U.S. say hotcakes is when they're like 5 years old.
Well, you can say the name hotcakes is true. It is hot, and it is basically a cake. So,
yeah.
Well, but you can also say that pancakes is true because it is made in a pan.
Kind of true. It's weird, but
and it's a cake. Yeah, but yeah. So she basically Kasumi is like spaced out while they're making these pancakes, and like she has the whisk in her hand, and she's like, "You use the schlong to beat it well." And I'm like, yes, Kasumi. And And like she just keeps going on like this. Like she makes a comment about this type of snack, but she mispronounces it, and the way that she mispronounces it makes it sound like she says dick cheese. Yeah. And then after a few and she just keeps going on like this. And after a few more comments, Kasumi she's like, I don't want to turn into a pervert. I have to look up Azura's skirt. And it's like, what? And now she just sounds even more like a pervert. But she explains the situation to the other two, like, oh no, I really mean like I need to look up Azura's skirt so like this issue in my head is settled so I don't keep thinking about dicks all the time. And they agree to help her. They're like, okay, we're gonna figure this out. And they decide they're gonna wheel Kasumi down the hall on her back on this cart, acting like she's injured and going to the nurse. And then they're gonna like ram it into Azura and go through her legs, which that would never work. That would never work.
Look,
it's not gonna happen.
They clearly showed it working in the show. Like it clearly made sense. She just flies by underneath, and she'll get a quick glimpse. Like obviously,
no, but like they were gonna try and ram it like between her legs. But the problem is that like they have the handle on that cart, right? Yeah. So yes, like the top of it can go through her legs, but like that handle is not gonna be able to go. Like it's gonna hit her.
Well, if there's nothing there to hit, then that proves their point that she's a girl.
So is this like the witch's trial? Like, if you're not a witch, then you won't drown. If you're not a man, then you won't get hurt. Mm-hmm. Like, let me tell you, it still hurts as a woman to get hit in your pubic area. You have a bone there. It does hurt, okay?
I imagine.
Let me say. So, anyway, so this is their plan. And they're like, we're going to do this. They execute this plan. They turn around, like they turn the corner. Azera is like, oh, I need to avoid this weird fucking cart coming through. He steps aside. They're like, no, we can't let this fail. And so they like swerve toward him so they can hit him via the plan. And they all fall. And Olivia and Kasumi basically end up like going to third base with each other. Like I'm pretty sure that Kasumi is like literally eating out Olivia because like you can see her like underwear over her head.
You mean Hanako?
Oh, was it Hanako?
Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it is Hanako and Olivia.
Hanako and Olivia. But it's funny because like literally her underwear is over her head.
This is what
so
they
like
were trying to
she really got it
for the other two, but it totally backfired. So yeah, that's why it's so fucking funny.
Like she got a face full of carpet. Let's just say that. So like yeah. I love that so much. And then the third skit is for the movie for the cultural exhibition, and they're doing this sci-fi movie. This was bizarre to me. So Kasumi saw Star Trek recently, and so she comes up with this skit that's just very similar to Star Trek, and like basically she has Olivia like just come out, of course, because she looks like a foreigner, so they're like, listen, you're gonna be the blonde bimbo. So she comes out and they're like, she's like, I am sexy spy. And then Hanako is like, sexy spy, you say? And then like can't blink 'cause she's supposed to be like the like the very nerdy, like, character. And she's like not allowed to blink for a whole minute or something. It's ridiculous. But then they go into this weird scene who I don't understand. Like, this is so weird. I don't know how Kasumi got, I don't know how she thought of this. I thought Kasumi was supposed to not be perverted after the last scene. Apparently, she's still pretty perverted. She comes up with this idea where she's like, haha, I'm going to interrogate you with this tool, which is totally a vibrator. And she's like, that tool is going to blow your mind. And it just looks like a torture porn is about to occur. And I'm just like, what the fuck? And then like they end the scene and it's like to be continued. And they're like, oh, but like no one will like this. And I almost expected that the next episode is going to be them being like, the show was so popular and we have no idea why. And then like all these teenage boys being like, oh, this is so sexy. Like,
Very cool.
we need to see the continuation. Like,
nice.
I don't know. But yeah, it was interesting. But in my opinion, the last section is the least interesting of this entire episode.
Yeah, this episode,
the first two are much. Yeah. What about you?
I have a theory on what happened with Kasumi in her dreams. I think she was watching Golden Kamui and fell asleep. That's why she had dicks on the brain.
Oh, man. Season 2 of Golden Kamui, please.
It's coming.
Just please stop with the dick jokes. Like, please.
No, please never stop with the dick jokes. Please give us all the dick jokes. Yes.
Damn it.
All the dick jokes.
So the part with Fujiwara at the beginning of this episode like made me pause and look up like Japanese traditional makeup because I was trying to figure out like, you know how like she has she like plucks her eyebrows and she has the eyebrows that are high up on her forehead instead that like are makeup eyebrows. I was like, I wanted to look up what the hell that was called and like I had no idea, so I looked it up. Apparently those kinds of eyebrows are called tenzyo mayu, and like the whole practice of like plucking your eyebrows and replacing them is called hikimayu. And so it's like really popular starting in like the Heian period in Japan. And it was like, apparently there's like a couple theories of like why people did it. Like one theory is it's meant to guard your emotions, like as your eyebrows can betray a lot of what you're thinking if you're like talking amongst like powerful people. So they would just like pluck off their eyebrows to make like them less accentuated and like just put them high up on your face where like the emotions don't reach that point in your face, basically. But then another explanation was that like at that time it was popular to like part your hair to the sides, but then women felt that like their foreheads were like way too prominent, so they removed their eyebrows and moved them halfway up their forehead to like balance out their face, basically. I don't know, both explanations are like really interesting to me. I hope they're kind of both true because it's really interesting. But yeah,
that is interesting.
There was also this joke at the end of the show. It was like, I thought pretty bold, where they were like joking about how like the Star Trek show has no plans for a season 2. And I was like, that's a meta commentary on Asobi Asobase. It's like, we have no plans for a season 2, just so you know. And it was kind of like a meta joke. I thought it was pretty funny. All right, so let's move on to the next show, Planet with Trope. Leo, stop changing the goddamn title.
It's true.
It's
called
not.
Planet With.
If this is a damn good show, you're just bitter. Okay.
Am I our bitter old man? Is that who I am?
I mean, sometimes you're very optimistic, though. I feel like. So.
Okay.
Episode 9, Messenger of Awakening. Benica, having had her photon armor destroyed, was exposed to the field of the sealing device, and so she's experiencing her own like hallucinatory dream. And she's like pushing around Yosuke's brother in a wheelchair, and Yosuke is there as well, though. As he actually sits by her bedside in real life, he imagines that like only his brother would be a part of her dream, like he's kind of being emo. And he asks like his brother, like, please take care of her. And so Soya has resigned himself not to fight, like reasoning that if the dragon kills him, he can meet all of his family and friends basically in the afterlife that died before him. And if he's sealed, he can just live happily forever in his dreams. So like, why should he fight at this point? Nozomi is able to get through to him a bit, though, telling him that like it doesn't matter to her if he's an alien or an earthling, because she's on the side of the people that she wants to befriend, and that's all that matters to her. And he kind of like perks up at that a little bit. Meanwhile, Yosuke is happy to see Benica wake up from her slumber, and he then takes what Generalissimo tells him is the last sealing device he brought to Earth and proceeds to go on the attack. The sealing device kind of looks like a baseball or something. It has like those red seams, and his photon armor is like a ram or a sheep form. It's pretty cool. Torai tries to like dissuade Yosuke from fighting, but Yosuke says that Benica is basically his entire world, and like he came very close to seeing that world end, meaning seeing Benica die or be trapped inside of a like eternal slumber. And like he says basically like if she's gonna die, like the earth can slumber beside her for all I care. Like that's all he cares about. So Yosuke absorbs the Nebula weapon inside of his photon armor, which is like a cool move, and then uses all of that power to basically bat Torai around like he's an insignificant fly or something. Luckily, at that point, Mew and Harumi also show up, like now having known that they can use their weapons again, even without the pixie dust or whatever. But they are dispatched in like an instant as well. Like they're no match for him.
Yeah, I just want to say he's done not a fucking thing the entire show, and suddenly he's just like the OP character. What?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird. Like, we haven't gotten so much backstory with him and or Benica. I think that's one of like the weakest points of the show, is that they just sort of left them to the end and then like sort of got their backstory together because it's like combined, like in that they both are really attached to his brother.
Well, they never talked. They talked a little bit about their backstory, but it's not until this episode, and then maybe the next episode, where they actually flush it out, and you're like, all right, I see why Benica and Yosuke actually know each other and what their type of relationship is.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. I mean, it's like a weird. It almost looks to me like a love triangle kind of thing. But,
yeah, basically.
Yeah, but I don't know. I felt like he's so dramatic and emo. Like, he needs to calm down. Like, I do think that Soya has some reasons for feeling the way he does. Because, like, imagine if, like, literally the entire Earth was destroyed. And, you're just now remembering that, like, the entire Earth is destroyed. And you're having to come to terms with, like, everyone you ever knew is dead. And you're, like, having all of these memories. Like, of course you're going to be upset. Like, of course.
Yeah. His reactions make sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, like, he does get over it pretty well, like, pretty quickly. Now, Yosuke I get irritated with, because, like, he's had time to come to terms with this. And really, I think all of his upsetness is really just about him being like, Benica doesn't love me. Benica only ever loved my brother, and so I'm going to watch the world burn while I stand on the precipice. And I'm like, okay, dude. Like,
yep. Yeah,
So.
pretty much. That's what all it comes down to, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Yosuke begins the sealing process, right? Which is like depicted by his photon armor, like stretching out these glowing bright arms that reach like all the way around the planet. Like it shows them like soaring over like the Statue of Liberty and like the Egyptian pyramids and penguins in Antarctica. And then you see it zooms out into space and you see like these like big arms like hugging around the entire planet.
Dude, when it showed the penguins in Antarctica, I was like, hey, you leave my I was like, hey, you leave my girls from a place further than the universe alone.
I mean, if you went down there, there's a bunch of money waiting for you. You can just pick it up. So yeah, the entire surface of the whole world then just turns black and white, like sepia, and like everything seems to go lifeless except for Soya, and all sound and life just like freezes in place, and it's just over. Like the sealing faction has won at this point, and it's like, oh shit. So the people of Paradise guy shows up because he's not affected by this, and he asks Soya if he wants him to do what he wants him to do something about it, and like Soya basically just like thinks back on his memories of his new friends, like especially Nozomi. It's very focused on like Nozomi, and Paradise guy is like, all right, if you defeat the dragon as part of a deal, like I'll save everyone. And Soya agrees. And so Paradise dude like presses his hand into Soya's back, which expands his mind, and that's like depicted by like Soya growing to like Titan size or like bigger, like huge Godzilla size, but just like as like a weird, I don't even know how to describe it, like mind altered version of himself. I don't know. And so it gives him the power to speak into the thoughts of everyone on the planet who has been sealed. And he basically decides to tell the people of Earth the truth. He's like, I'm an alien, and another race of aliens has deemed Earth too dangerous to continue evolving. So
okay, but
you've
the
been
way
given
they
these
say
wonderful
this,
dreams.
the way they say this is so
What?
funny. He like stands up and he's like, people of Earth, can you hear me? I am an alien. Like, what the
It's the most uninspiring speech I've ever heard, and then just like he convinces everybody, and I'm just kind of like, I feel like I should have been a little bit emotional or something like this, but like he just does it, and I'm like, that convinced them.
No, but it's
It doesn't
supposed
convince
to be
everybody.
funny. It's supposed to be like da-da-da. Like, it's hilarious. And, like, the weird megaphone that appears.
I sat here just confused and just like, what? This is dumb. I know.
There's this, like, virtual megaphone.
I can't believe you called it funny. I was like, what?
What are you talking about? It's ironic. Irony is hilarious.
It's supposed to be like a big emotional scene, and it's just really stupid.
You just...
Yeah, I don't know where I fall on this. Like, part of me thinks it was meant to be like a fairly serious moment, and then part of me also agrees with Kat. Like, I'm somewhere caught in between the two of you. I don't know.
Well, but they do that throughout this show, where they have things like that'll be very serious, and then they'll throw something in there like the cat looking up some model skirt, like out of the blue. Like, they do it on purpose because it's funny. It's like weird. Like, it's weird humor.
Okay,
I love
it comes
that.
across as funny to you, but to me, it clashes with the scene. I'm like, what?
It's supposed to clash with the
of
scene. That's the whole point. That's the
I don't
humor.
think they do it well. I don't think they do it well at all. And it doesn't come across as humorous to me at all.
I appreciated that in this moment, Soya didn't lie. He didn't make any shit up. He just basically told the truth to everybody on Earth. Like, this is exactly what's happening to you. And he also gives them a choice. He's like, he's like, I know some of you are really happy right now. Like, you're really enjoying these dreams that you're having.
But it's a lie.
But, like, if you want to return to reality and keep moving forward with your lives, like, raise your hands if you want to. And so you see a lot of people raise their hands, and the Paradise guy, like, pulls them out of their dreams, everybody who has raised their hand. And at that point in time, I was like, did this sway everybody? But we find out at the end of the episode, not everybody raised their hand. Like, a lot of people stayed in the dream world, which I think is really realistic, which I liked a lot. So Soya is, like, moved by all this, and he pleads with the people of Earth not to make the same mistake that the Sarusians did. So that's, like, the last thing he tells them. But my problem with that is, like, how the fuck would they know what the Sarusians did? Like, how would they even know what the fuck he's talking about? That didn't make a lot of sense. But so anyway, Mew, Harumi, and Torai are fighting Yosuke with, like, renewed determination after all this. But he's still too powerful for them. So then Soya shows up with Sensei to just kick some ass. And Torai demands, like, to know why he returned to fight, which is a good question. And Soya responds that the people who saved him are here. He's on the side of the people he wants to befriend. So he's just repeating the words that Nozomi said earlier. He also thanks Torai for the time he gave him shoes, which was a cute, like, moment because, like, Torai didn't know who he was when they met on that park bench, and he just, like, gave him some shoes. And so, yeah, Ginkgo, Sensei, and Soya all team up and transform the cat spaceship into battle mode, which is like a giant cat mech.
It was kind of cool.
Yeah, that was pretty dope. Yosuke is, like, despondent about losing his brother and feels the only way to escape it is to escape reality entirely. And Soya has a great response to this. Like, having also lost his brother, he's come to realize that even though in reality his home is gone, reality is still his home. Damn. I actually thought that was, like, one of the most, like, powerful lines of this whole episode for people who have gone through loss like that. And want to escape to somewhere else, but have to come to terms that, like, no, I need to still live in reality. I can't just escape this forever. So Soya lands a Terra Cat hammer punch on Yosuke, destroying his armor. He plummets towards the ocean like he's resigned to die, but he's saved by Benica, who shows up at the last second, swoops in, and catches him in some photon armor. And she apologizes to him for putting him through everything. She kind of realizes that, like, she was selfishly worried about only herself, and she wasn't thinking about the damage and harm that was doing to Yosuke as well. And so Soya points to the stars and challenges Generalissimo to a battle because, like, he's the only one left to fight at this point. There's nobody else. So yeah, I thought that was a pretty solid episode because, like, it just as much as, like, Yosuke's character kind of, like, is not built up well in the show. I like the final message that we got out of, like, defeating him, basically. Yeah, I don't know. I had fun with this episode.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad somebody did. So I I hate sappy characters, hate people who whine. It's amazing. I'm still watching Attack on Titan. I think that's because the action was really good early on, and that's just always had me on board. And like at this point in time, we're in season 3, and like I'm just flat out invested in the show, even though Eren is just a fucking bitch. Yeah. But then there's like other shows like Evangelion, which I can't make it more than 5 episodes. I've never seen past that, I admit.
That's amazing.
Shinji, I'm amazing. Just like I want to blow my brains out, and I should love that show should be right up my alley. And also just to bring up another show, Recreators, which listeners know I fucking hated that show so much. It was his name was Sota, another sappy, whiny character who like had this information for like ever and could have solved so much if he had said fucking something, but he didn't because he's like, I think people will think of me differently or whatever his fucking stupid problem was. It was dumb, and I just hate that shit, and I think it's useless. And so in this episode, we get fucking 2 of them, Soya and Yosuke, who hasn't done a damn thing up until now. And he's just like, I'm doing it for Benica. Ah, God. It's just, it grates on me. I just can't take it. I also already talked about how like that speech, I was just like very unimpressed. Kat says I should have thought it was funny. I did not. And then really randomly during the show, something made me think of Hisone to Masotan, which was not that great of a show. And I sat there and I was like, I would rather rewatch that entire show again than continue this show. And I only have like 2 episodes to go.
What? How dare you? How dare
disagree
you?
with that.
That is
I don't know what made me think of that show. I just sat there like my brain was like, what's a show I didn't really like that I would rather rewatch than finish 3 or 2 more episodes of this show? And that one, it was just like boom, right in front of my brain.
By the way, I bet you I know exactly what made you think of it. It's when the cat mech and the dog mech eat their pilots, just like in Hisone to Masotan.
Maybe
it might have been that. I don't know.
Like I said, I keep looking at stuff. I'm like, that's tropey. I saw this in another anime. I saw this in another anime. So that would have made sense. That's probably where my mind went with it. But those are my thoughts. I've upset Kat with my opinions.
Well, I think you might have liked the next episode more because it's like, as Kat's going to cover, it's just a good old-fashioned mech battle, like pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay, so episode 10. I can't even say it. It's Kara Ellen or whatever. This is like, yeah, I don't know. This is like the fight episode. Like this is when it goes down. So Soya challenges the Ceiling faction boss to a fight. And the Ceiling faction boss, whose name is Generalissimo, says that they will fight in a week when they both recover, which, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Also, okay, I'll get to it in a second. I'm pissed off about something. Nejima is better and is like no longer sealed somehow. I guess like when everyone was saved, he was also saved, even though he was sealed before everyone else. I was like, okay. So like then it goes to like a week from now or whatever, and the cat and the dog ships are like posing like in meditation pose.
Yep.
And I was like, what is this? Like, are they gonna play like da da na na like music in the background or something?
Pretty much.
So Generalissimo has one more miniature sealing device, even though last fucking episode he was like, this is my last sealing device, I'm gonna give it to you. But wait, no, I have another one. It reminded me of like that trope of villains where, you know, they'll have like...
It reminded you of a trope? Holy shit.
Oh, fuck off, Leo. But you know what I mean, right? Like a villain will be like, ha, but I have another one. And like then they'll have to get that one. I was like, come on.
I thought that was kind of annoying. That he's like, oh, so here's my last sealing device. Actually, I have this miniature one. It's like, really?
Come on. So for Soya to win, he must destroy that one. But for the Ceiling faction to win, he must break Soya's will, basically. And I'm like, okay. But then he's like, or I could just kill you if your will is too strong. Yeah. I'm like, okay. So And then they do the thing where they eat the helpers in order to like transform into the fighter pilot version. And like, did you see the poses they make like before they eat the helpers? Does anyone smell merchandise? Like, that just reeks of merchandise. Those poses. That's like made for it.
For sure.
So they both go into doping mode. And this just made me laugh because it made me think of like Olympics and like making jokes about the Olympics. And they're like, can't we just both agree not to dope? Like, if you both go into doping mode, then like what good does it do you? Like,
that's true.
Yeah. Then they go into like the epic fight and they're fighting and it's going back and forth. And there's like a guitar solo here that is pretty damn badass in my opinion. And they literally fly up.
I enjoyed the guitar solo.
They fly up like into space and keep fighting. And then they fall like back down and like both of the huge ship versions like lift up their paws, and it's their paws because they're just giant versions, and catch them like a baseball or something.
They're like smoldering from like entering the atmosphere and stuff. Yeah, it's good stuff.
And then the red-haired girl, what is her name? I always forget her name.
Benica.
Benica, yeah. So Benica is like, I'm not even sure what side I'm on anymore. Neither has a place for me. And I'm like, well, that's fine. And Yosuke and her kind of like...
I would say since she had been put to sleep and then willingly woke back up, that she's now switched sides.
I think she's just more neutral.
I still think she's definitely more neutral. Like she understands like both sides, but like I see where she's coming from in that like she doesn't feel that either side is particularly right for her. She doesn't believe in totally in either side. I don't know. She's an independent Leo. She's not a Democrat or a Republican.
But yeah, so Yosuke kind of holds her hand and is like, we should go see my brother when this is over. And I assume they mean his grave. And I kind of took from this, like, they're going to end up together. Like, although, I don't know, like, there's always going to be some weird shit there. Because Yosuke's always going to be like, you love my brother more than me. I'm just his substitute. Like, that's going to be weird. But I wish them the best.
That's always going to be awkward.
Yeah,
I do feel like she was starting to see like some aspects that she loved in his brother in him. So I think there is like a chance for them to develop something there, but it is always going to be a bit awkward. I think.
Yeah. And then the ships eat the fighter, like the tinier fighter versions, to become like the super big ass fighter version. Like, this is so mecha. Like this is so like super robot genre. Like.
Yep.
Now we are the big version. So they start fighting with the big ships and they destroy each other's arms like in turns. And it looks like Soya is going to lose. And then the old man appears and attacks the ceiling faction. And he's like, this is for my son. And it's like all dramatic. But then Soya's like, but no, dude, I'm the one who killed your son. Like, you should kill me. And then, like, the guy turns to him, the old guy, and just gives him this look like, you dumb shit. And is like, I know. I
love the old man's attack. Like,
I know.
Putting all of his power into one last blow to avenge his son's death and carry on his son's legacy. Like, that was great. Like, that was a great moment.
But I just love that, and then also Soya being like, but that's wrong, and then like him looking at him and being like, well, duh, you dumb shit. Like, I love that. They did a really good job, like animating his face, like his expression on his face.
Sure, yeah.
Soya attacks again, and then ejects the smaller fighter out to attack, like because both of the big ships are like fucked now, like they've destroyed them. And then at the very end, like, the cat, like, attacks with the shoe again. There are so many weird inside jokes in this anime. Like the meat thing and the upskirt shots with the models and, like, attacking with shoes.
Yeah, little clogs. Yeah, it's so good.
I love this anime so much. And then, like, and so then, like, they are able to destroy the sealing device with the shoe. and all is saved. And then at the very end, you find out 20% of the world stayed in a coma, which I was like, damn, that's a lot. And then both factions agreed to fight the dragon like in 5 years when it comes back from its coma. So like even the Sealing faction is like, yeah, we'll help you fight the dragon because like that's kind of our problem too. And then they show, like, at the very end of this episode, like, 5 years later, and, like, show everyone, like, posed, like, we've been waiting kind of thing. And, like, doesn't Soya look a lot like his brother now that he's aged?
Yeah. And I was
that
like,
makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it does make sense. But I was like, holy
cool
shit, time skip when that happened. I was so happy when we got an actual time skip. I was like, fuck yeah.
Yes, Leo, it does make sense, but it's cool to see, okay? I know you hate this show. I fucking love it. Step off my boy, okay? This is my baby.
That's my boy over there.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I don't know what exactly happened to make me say this, but I wrote down Ginkgo is fucking best girl Jesus. I'm not sure why I wrote that down, but like I did at some point. I was just really excited about something. Yeah, Ginkgo did something cool in this episode. I don't remember. I think she just said something to like urge Soya on or something like that. I can't remember what it was, but she was great.
Yeah, so I'm still trying to figure out, you know, why I dislike the show. And basically what I think is this show's done by JC staff. And I feel like they looked up to their big brothers, Trigger and Gynax, both of them mostly. And he's like, I want to be just like you. And instead of being original, tried to be like them, but then gave up halfway and outsourced it to a Chinese studio. And then they finished the rest of it for them. So and that's what I feel like this show is. I feel like... I
think
like
there's enough that's original about it. I really feel like there's enough that's original and different about this anime that it's like it's wrong to completely say it's like an outsourced Chinese show because it's definitely not.
I do. I feel like the person who created this, they have only seen Trigger and Gynax shows, so the only thing they have to go off are those two, mostly what they do, and this is what you get. And I'm just like, I've seen everything in here. I feel very little originality, but I do have a really interesting question. I'm become more interested in Kagone. Like, what's her reasoning? Why is she doing what she's doing? We haven't had the slightest hint of why she's with the Sealing faction at all, or even if she's human or not. I don't know if she may be an alien like Ginkgo for all we know. But
yeah, I was trying to remember because I saw you put that down. I was trying to remember if we got any like hint of backstory with her, like why
Nothing.
she.
Right?
Yeah, I can't remember. Like, I didn't go back and like watch through like her introduction or anything. But like
she was the secretary to Takashi, and then the next thing you know, she's like, "Haha, I'm with the Sealing faction," and then they fought, and that was just like it. I've seen nothing else, or can remember anything else to tell us what her reasons are.
I would hope that we see something like that in the last 2 episodes that just sort of explains why she's on that side so strongly, and like is literally like the chosen warrior for the Generalissimo to pair with. So yeah. That seems like an important link that should be explored. You're definitely right about that.
Yeah. But does anybody have anything else to say?
No, we can move on.
Okay, because I can think of a better show with a whiny character that's at least enjoyable.
All right, Leo. I'm gonna kick your ass if you keep beating on Planet With. Planet With is amazing. Okay.
Well, I'll let you know. You have 2 more episodes where I'm going to keep beating on it. So, and then we're done.
Well, I've heard the finale is spectacular. So good luck beating on it. All right. So Attack on Titan season 3, episode 9 or 46, Ruler of the Walls. So, Han Zoe explains that the reasoning behind Erwin's plan not to evacuate the Orvu district, even though like Rod Rice's crazy abnormal Titan is heading straight for it, is that abnormal Titans are attracted to large concentrations of people. And so if they were like going to evacuate deeper within Walsina, like they show like a little graphic of like the Titan just like turning from Orvud like into like the middle of the district and just like going through that wall instead. And like he would just continue heading straight for like the population center Mitras and just deal a huge blow to humanity. So it does not make sense to evacuate. The There's this brief scene where they show Aaron punching the air, trying to use his powers to control the Rod Rice Titan, and it doesn't work. I was just laughing my ass off because like Aaron's like keeps like punching at the Titan, like, why won't you listen to me? It's so dumb. And Levi's just like side-eyeing him, thinking like, you friggin' moron, Aaron. Like, you're such an idiot.
To me, he was thinking like, God, of course you're still useless.
Yeah, our entire society hinges on you and you suck. So the next morning, the Rice Titan approaches the walls, and they've set up like hundreds of cannons mounted on the walls and also like down in front of the walls as well. And they tell people of the district, we're just performing a Titan attack exercise. It's just a drill, nothing to worry about. But like nobody really buys it. They're all, well, they don't think that like there's imminent danger, but they just think the scouts are trying to show that they're in power now, that they've deposed the fake king.
Yeah, they get so cynical. They're like, you just want us to do this because you want to show you're in charge.
Exactly, yeah. And
we're not going to do it.
Interesting take.
Yeah, and I was like, well, I guess that could happen. I don't know. I mean, they did just come into power. Like, it does make sense that it would be harder to get people to do what they say. Sure. Yeah.
Trying to legitimize themselves, yeah. But, like, it's hard to deny something's happening when the cannons start firing. Like, there's, like, a lot of damage. Like, they don't do much damage to Rod Rice, though, with these cannons. Like, they, like, over time, they start leaving, like, some pockmarks and craters in his, like, huge, like, body, but...
Yeah, he starts looking like the moon. That's about it.
Levi has a good way of saying it. He says the cannons are doing slightly more than a pissing insect. So, yeah. Luckily, Erwin seems to have a plan, having asked Hanj to gather all, like, the gunpowder, rope, and netting that she could find. And that'll come into play later. Erwin would like Historia to stay back from the battle, where it's safe, but she seems to convince him that the people won't bow to some new ruler in name only, like she has to be able to act as well.
So awesome.
And seeing Historia's strength, Aaron is like looking on. He does what only Aaron can do and goes into a long, whiny monologue about how he's actually always been weak.
I know.
And how humanity's probably going to see the same sight he saw the day the Titan killed his family.
Woo-hoo! I am so troubled. I'm the only one who suffers. Oh.
Yeah.
Shit.
I get so tired of
Armin
Aaron's
cheers
shit.
him up.
You know, they should just wire his mouth shut. They should just be like, we like you, Aaron, but you need to not talk anymore. And just wire his mouth shut.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Armin cheers him up, telling him, like, the big difference between today and the day when, like, the Titans attacked Aaron's, like, village and everything is that they're standing on top of these walls as soldiers and they're defending humanity. And, like, they're the barrier. And, like, so... Mikasa tells Aaron, like, keep your hands busy, and Aaron, who literally has maybe 1.5 brain cells tops, starts punching himself in the fucking face. He just starts railing on his own face.
I was so angry. I was like, you are a dumb bitch. Like, there are people, when I was 14 years old, who would do shit like this, and I would look at them and be like, this dude is a fucking insane nut job. That he's hitting himself in the face. This Aaron, what the fuck? Like, this is never acceptable.
Yeah,
I was so angry.
There were some times when Aaron's so dumb, I barely react, and this was just one of them where I was just like, this is just too stupid for me to give the energy to have a reaction to, and just move on.
Oh my god.
So like, he has this line where he says, like, I'm beating the shit out of a useless brat, and I'm hoping he's gone for good. Oh. And I'm like, okay, is Attack on Titan literally telling us that dumb Aaron is now gone for good? Because I would hope so. Like,
because you know what?
Of how long that lasts.
Because Aaron was dumb enough to punch himself in the face. Dumb Aaron is not fucking gone. Like, God, I was so pissed off. Like, I wanted them all to look at him and, like, step back away from him for a second and just be like, Aaron, no. Honey, no.
Stop hitting yourself.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Like, I wanted them to react logically, like, for it to be awkward. And I was like, why is this like this? It was terrible.
Well, they kind of did react logically because, like, I think it was Armin who's like, "You don't need to wound yourself to become a Titan like that." And he's like, "No, that's not what I'm doing. I'm punching the idiot out of myself, Armin. Don't you get it?"
You don't understand.
Even Armin,
Yeah.
Armin has been kind of a whiny character, but he's actually been redeeming himself at points. Aaron has not.
No, okay, so Aaron and Armin are like opposites. Armin looks like the soft bitch on the outside, and he has his soft bitch moments, but like on the inside, he's kind of a badass. Like Aaron is like the badass on the outside.
But you're right.
And
Armin is realizing he actually is and can be a badass, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And like you're getting ready to say, Aaron, not so much.
Yeah, Aaron is like that little like foo-foo dog that you meet on the street that like barks a lot, but then like when a big dog comes up and like looks at it, it like cowers in the corner and like pisses itself. Like that's what Aaron is basically.
All right, we gotta move on. So Rice has reached the wall now, and he raises himself up above it.
And he's horrifying looking. Holy shit.
Yeah. These like three kids on the ground sort of reenact like the scene from like the first episode, seeing the Colossal Titan for the first time. So since Rice has been dragging his face along the ground for miles, like the front part of his head is just completely sawed off flat. Like with exposed like brains and teeth and cartilage and like sinew.
Oh yeah,
definitely not someone you want to take home to mom. You know,
this was like really graphic, and there's like blood pouring out of the eye holes. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. His like so he stands up against the wall, and then like his bowels start to like seep out of his stomach, and they start like melting away at the wall. It seems like. And also, the people of the fucking Orvu district are pretty aware this is no longer a drill. Like, that didn't hold up very long. Aaron tells Armin that humanity also has an ace up its sleeve this time, which obviously he means his Titan abilities. And so he transforms, and the scouts prepare to fight. And so what they do is they fire harpoons that are attached to these gunpowder barrels at Rice's Titan hands. And this causes him to lose grip of the wall and like fall backwards a bit. And then Aaron in his Titan form like runs at him with this huge net that's just full of gunpowder barrels that the scouts prepared. And the plan all along was like a gamble. Like it was a gamble that Rice's Titan was protecting his mouth by dragging his face along the ground because it's a weak point, and that the heat from his body should ignite the barrels if there is a mouth there to be opened. And so luckily when Rice lifts his head up, he does have a mouth, and Aaron just shoves a huge load of gunpowder down its throat, and just boom, huge explosion, like probably the biggest explosion we've ever seen in this show.
Mm-hmm.
And Rice is like exploded into little bits, but they realize like if we don't destroy the main body, like he'll still be able to regenerate into his Titan form. So a bunch of scouts leap into the air with like their ODM gear and start slicing away at like the little bits that were blown off and are flying. And so Historia, of course, is the one who lands. Yeah, it makes sense that it's her. She finds the real bit that is actually her father and lands the killing blow on him. As she rebels against her parents for the first time, as she says.
Yeah, that was an interesting. I'm rebelling by killing him.
Yeah, it was a little nerdy that moment where she's like, I'm rebelling against my parents for the first time. I'm such a rebeller.
It was a little good. Come on, you have to admit it was
all right.
It was okay.
I think the moment was cool still.
Yeah, but I did think it was funny how like they explain like, oh, the Titan had this strategy of like dragging his face along the ground in order to like protect his mouth from this possible strategy. Like we might have to plan around this, but then it backfires. I kind of thought that was cool because like he literally dragged his mouth across the ground so fucking much he no longer has a mouth.
Yeah, God.
That was ironic to me. But yeah,
it would have been better not to have even been doing that. So
yeah, it seems like. As she lands that final blow on Rod Rice and cuts through him, like a lot of her father's thoughts and memories flash through her mind. it kind of exposes that he truly did go through a lot of pain and anguish trying to fulfill his family's legacy, but also that he seemed like a coward like his entire life, and he was a coward to the very end and kind of deserves this death. And so she lands in like a pile of like, I don't know, sacks of like corn or something. And everyone sees that Historia was the one to deal that blow. There's like a huge crowd that has gathered. And basically a queen is born. Like she rises up and declares like, I am Historia Rice, the true ruler of the walls. And so that was a pretty badass moment. But then it moves on to quickly transition to what will be the next episode, where Kenny is like half burnt to a crisp, his face, and like has lost a ton of blood. And he sees flashes of his memories, like his dealings with the Rice family and with his comrades. And like it was tough to make sense of all this without the benefit of being like a manga reader, but luckily like the next episode goes into like great detail on his background.
Yeah, a flashback episode that's actually decent,
worthwhile.
It fills in some openings we didn't know about. But yeah.
Like, so, yeah, and like Levi finds him and is prepared to watch Kenny die, but Kenny opens a box that has another Titan injection inside of it as the episode comes to an end. And so that's a big cliffhanger.
Right. But, yeah. I am ready for episode 10. Kat, you want to add anything real quick?
Yeah, no, I think I put all my comments in within the episode. But these two episodes were awesome, as always. The show is awesome. Yeah.
So, episode 10.
It is almost worth how fucking behind it is the rest of the season. Almost.
Yeah.
Almost.
Jesus.
Okay, go on.
So, episode 10, Friends. It's mostly a flashback episode, but like I just said a minute ago, it does fill in some points, but there's also like a point or two that just feels like filler to me, but some people may disagree. I don't know. We'll find out. But anyways, in Kenny's past, he attacked Yuri because of the persecution that the Ackermans have to go through. What was that? Like earlier on, because the Ackermans have an immunity to the Reese's family's power, right? And that's why they got persecuted. So that's why he attacked him. But Yuri stops him with his Titan form, but then releases him and says he knows why he tried to kill him and bows like before Kenny. And like Kenny's not only shocked by the Titan form, but then he's also shocked by Yuri like bowing before him because he's like a king, and then he's asking Kenny for his forgiveness. And then Kenny decides he will help this man anyways. And like at the next council meeting, the guy that tipped Kenny off is gone, and in his place is Kenny. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And
that happened
Kenny,
fast.
and then, Kenny feels like it was pathetic of himself to then be helping him, but in the end, it stopped the persecution of the Ackermans. So, like, that's kind of what his goal was the whole time. And then Kenny goes off to find his sister and finds her dead, but she left behind a child named Levi and trains him in combat. So this is kind of cool because this would mean that Levi is an Ackerman.
Yep.
So that means that's awesome. That means he's immune to the powers,
which
and he's also related to Mikasa.
Yeah, like, we already kind of put that together, but this solidifies everything.
Right.
Yeah.
But then also, if you look, if you're an Ackerman, you're a fucking badass. Kenny's a badass. Mikasa's a badass. Levi's a badass.
Yeah, but I don't like the whole genetic badass thing. It's not genetic. Being a badass is not genetic. Being a badass is your personality, okay? I don't like this bullshit where they're like, oh, they have the blood of the Ackermans, so that makes them amazing. Like, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, but in that world, that would explain why Aaron's a pussy, because apparently his bloodline just gets killed off all the fucking time.
He just needs to fuck Mikasa, and they need to have a kid, and then it'll finally be okay. Then
what they'll just cancel out, and there'll just be a neutral down the middle.
Exactly.
Oh man! But anyways, Kenny later on has like this scene where he just has a heart-to-heart with Yuri that like I'm going to basically gloss over unless either two of you have something to say, because that just felt like filler, where it was just trying to convince you that Kenny's slightly human in a way.
It's not filler.
Like I was just like, whatever.
What do you mean? Like it's a very touching moment where you find out about Kenny, like Levi's mother.
You're like, oh, Kenny's not like a total monster
No,
like you thought
find
the whole
out
time.
Levi's
And I'm
mother
like,
was
yeah.
a prostitute, and you find out all about how Levi grew up, like, and he was starving to death and all this shit. Like, that's not filler. That's good backstory.
No, the whole part where you find out about, him training Levi is great. But the part about him with Yuri as they're just talking, it's like a 5-minute scene where they're talking and they're having a heart-to-heart. That's the part where I was just
Okay.
So that part basically boiled down to like Kenny is obsessed with getting the Titan power because he's determined to know whether like a piece of trash like himself could become compassionate for humanity, like all of the Rice family members seem to become like once they gain that Titan power. He wants to see whatever they see that makes them feel compassionate because he feels like he's like a waste of a human being because he's just terrible and like nothing could possibly change his mind about humanity. And so like, his relationship with Yuri is just like helping him come around a bit to that end of the spectrum.
It's kind of like what is that like old story, like fairy tale story about like the wooden doll who like wants to become a real boy or whatever.
Pinocchio.
Yeah. It's like, and he's like, can I become a real boy if I get the Titan power?
Right.
Sorry.
We also there's also like a little scene there where like Kenny first gets his like squad that we've been seeing the whole time. That's like part of the military police and whatnot. And then like you get to see his little interaction with like the woman. Her name was Kavin, who was like basically the leader for his little squad for him. And like you get like her resolve, but it's kind of like, why do we know this now? Because she's dead. It would have been nice to know this earlier, like what her motives were. So
yeah, I kind of agree with that.
Yeah. And then we jump back to the present, and Kenny and Levi, have like another heart-to-heart. And it's kind of funny. Levi's like, I know you're not going to inject yourself because you've had this whole time to do it. So, and then Levi finally finds out himself. We already know, but he finds out that Kenny was his true blood uncle this whole time. And Levi's just kind of like, holy shit, that's crazy. And
I think
I
think Levi thought that he was his dad. Did you get that feeling? Like that he had always suspected that Kenny was his dad?
I don't know if he suspected that, but like he definitely looked at him as a father figure at the very least, like because he basically raised him.
Well, because he's like, I don't know. That's what I always thought. Like he was surprised also because he always thought like, oh, this is my dad, but he just doesn't want to admit that he's my dad. I don't know.
Oh, I never got that. I always just felt like he picked Levi up because he thought he had potential. That's kind of what I felt like.
No, I think he does care about him as a family member. He's just like, he's kind of emotionally dead inside. And so like his excuse is like, no, it's just because has potential. But I mean, come on. You don't see him picking up any other kids off the street that aren't related to him.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think there's actually a good answer for this. I think it's just all speculation. But Levi obviously finding this out. Yeah, he wants more answers, but Kenny has none. And then in the end, he gives Levi the vial. So now Levi has a vial that can turn you into a Titan. And then Kenny passes away, and that's him. The rest of him, bleh. Then we jump to Historia, who gets crowned, and the people accept her because she saved them from the Titan and ended her father's tyrannical rule, who was doing it from the shadows, which is how it's explained. And then they are like walking through the halls and are joking around and like, and then they come up to Levi and like Historia hilariously like works herself up and like punches Levi, and like she goes to punch him, he just turns sideways real quick and punches him in the arm. And then like just surprising everybody, Levi smiles and he's like thank all of you. I thank all of you for like being my friends or being part of my squad. And everybody's just like, what the fuck? Are we on drugs right now? Okay, but apparently this last scene is why we had to watch what I thought was filler earlier, because apparently Raynor, the armored Titan, fought the Beast Titan for supremacy and lost. So now I guess they kind of have to do the whatever the Beast Titan wants them to do. And it's kind of funny because the Beast Titan doesn't even seem winded from their fight. And like Reiner has just been fucking wrecked. And he says saving Annie will have to come later. But what they need to obtain is the coordinate first. And all they have to do is wait where they are. So they're probably in Aaron's hometown, which is where that's been fucking wrecked, is where they are right now.
That would make sense. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, and this makes me think about not last episode, but an episode ago where Sasha Potato Girl like blatantly calls out like, "Oh, so we're going to go to Aaron's basement?" And I'm just like, "Thank you for coming back around."
They'll never let
We've been
that
wondering
go.
what's been in this basement since was it episode fucking 1?
I see. You know what?
Of season 1?
Leo, you like meta jokes when they're in Attack on Titan, but you don't like them when they're in Planet With, apparently. Only when they're on Attack on Titan.
Well, Attack on Titan's so serious, so when you get that one joke, it's great, but when you're supposed to get 3 of them in every single episode, it's not good.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Attack on Titan is extremely original.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot say that about Planet With. It's just borrowing from everything, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I don't think they're doing it the right way.
So I wanted to go back to one thing about Kenny and Yuri that I forgot to talk about that I thought was interesting. So Kenny like comes to the conclusion that like everyone he's ever met is drunk on something, and that's like their motivation in life, like whether they're drunk on power, religion, their family, or their love for somebody. And he says in the end he figured out that even Yuri was drunk, and he finally figured out why he bowed before Kenny. And when he says this, they're showing the scene like where Yuri bows to him from Rod's perspective. And I believe the message here is that Yuri was trying to show his brother Rod like the true path of like forgiveness that he wanted his brother to follow. I think he knew his brother needed to be taught this lesson, and it obviously didn't end up working out in the end. But I think Yuri could maybe see into the future and see that Rod would inherit this power one day, or would have to guide the Rice family beyond Yuri's time. And he wanted to try to give him this like image as like a lesson to like guide him down the line, but it clearly did not work. So I think that's what Yuri was doing. He was sort of drunk on his own family and protecting his legacy. And and so that's how Kenny like rationalizes all that. Last thing is that, so yeah, Attack on Titan has been like airing like later than everything, which is like definitely slowed down our release schedule this season. And then it got even further postponed because of a typhoon in Japan, so now it's like even more behind. So like when we're looking ahead to our like final wrap up episode, it looks like the only episode of Attack on Titan that's going to be out like on that time frame is episode 11. So we'll probably wrap up our coverage for Attack on Titan after 11 episodes, and then assume that we're probably going to continue covering it into fall anyway, and we'll just pick up from there.
Oh yeah,
just obviously sync it up with whatever's current with Attack on Titan with the current anime season, so that we're not so far behind.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So yeah.
Yep. Anything else to add about this?
No.
No.
All right. I think that's it then. So thank you for listening. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe to us on YouTube or to our podcast feed on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. Also, please leave us some 5-star reviews on iTunes before Kat kills somebody.
Probably me.
Yeah, most
probably Leo.
Maybe,
you don't want him
maybe.
to just, if he ever just disappears and like we suddenly only have 2 hosts, like you know what happened, and you don't want that. You want Leo to stay here and be grouchy old man. So come on and leave us some 5-star reviews. Okay?
Yeah. And of course, you can follow us on Twitter at Nerdom and Other for updates on new podcasts as well. And also join our Discord and all the shenanigans that go down there, like our movie watches. Kat's movie education is going very well. We've been watching a lot of stuff lately.
Just witnessing the list that she has not seen is amazing upon itself.
Yes.
It's like a blank slate.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, if Kat starts making lots of movie references in the next few podcasts, you'll know why. And yeah, we've been watching a lot of episode 1s of anime as they've been coming out for the fall season and getting hyped about that. So yeah, make sure to check us out next time. We will be wrapping up the summer season with our final scores and reviews. And with that, we'll see you later.
Bye.